Chapter 682. Louis Han laughed, reached out, and grabbed Luo Zhan's pants. Luo Zhan was wearing pajama pants, which were big and elastic, and they were pulled down by Louis Han. "What are you doing? Are you a hooligan?" Luo Zhan kicked his hand angrily, quickly pulled his pants back, and shouted, "Do you know who I am?" "Luo Zhan," Louis Han said honestly. His cheeks were red, and his eyes were blurred. "No. I am your Uncle Luo." Luo Zhan looked like he was not worth teaching, and reached out to pull him up. "Let's go back to the room." Louis Han obediently got up, and as he walked, he reached out to unbutton his clothes. But his eyes were blurred, and after a long time, he couldn't even unbutton one. He stumbled, and his body swayed. Luo Zhan opened the door of his room, and Louis Han lowered his head to unbutton his clothes, and unexpectedly hit the door. Bang! It was a huge sound. Luo Zhan had a headache. Turning around, he saw Louis Han covering his face and giggling. Turning around, he pulled his hand down, and then saw that Louis Han's hand was full of blood, and near his nose and mouth, there was red blood. Damn! So hard? Ha 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 ha. What the hell? Ha 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 ha. Luo Zhan laughed mercilessly, almost going crazy. Louis Han's nose was bleeding, and seeing him laughing like this, he was not happy. He reached out and pushed him, a little unhappy. "What are you laughing at?" Ha 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 ha. Louis Han silently touched his nose, and reached out to touch Luo Zhan's body. Luo Zhan very cleverly avoided a step back, and with a provocative look, he said, "Can't touch." But then, Louis Han slammed the door in, and Luo Zhan only saw the light dim, and then, there was a sharp pain in his crotch. Luo Zhan wailed, and tears burst out. Vaguely, he seemed to hear the sound of eggs breaking. He bent over, covered his penis, and curled up on the ground in pain, unable to say a word. Louis Han did not expect that his retaliatory action would cause such a result. Shocked, he stumbled forward. Louis Han saw him like that and knew that the situation was not good. He asked, "Is it very painful?" "What do you think?" Luo Zhan covered his crotch with tears in his eyes. "I'm still a virgin. Why are you doing this to me? Let me see." Louis Han felt a little guilty. As he spoke, he reached out to take off his pants. Luo Zhan was horrified. He covered his crotch tightly and shook his head desperately. Although Louis Han was drunk, he still had some consciousness. At the same time, she was also quite strong. She forcefully pried his hands open, and then without saying a word, she pulled down his pants. Luo Zhan felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He quickly got up and crawled outside. Louis Han was confused, but he didn't see anything. How could he let him run away? He stretched out his long hand and dragged Luo Zhan's ankle. Luo Zhan wailed, "No. Louis Han, even if you can't get my sister-in-law, don't mess with me. I'm not gay." Louis Han was speechless. He pulled him hard, and Luo Zhan directly fell to the ground, feeling pain. Then, Louis Han pulled hard and opened the door wide. With the light from outside, he opened his eyes wide and looked at the place where Luo Zhan had just hit. Dizzy, Louis Han couldn't see anything clearly. Chapter 683. Luo Zhan dragged his pants, turned around, and pushed him hard. His cheeks were slightly red, and he shouted angrily, "Go away, drunk people should behave themselves." After that, he hurriedly got up and pulled his pants open to have a look. He deliberately found the place with the brightest light. After thinking for a long time, it seemed that there was nothing wrong with it, and it did not hurt as much as before. Looking back, Louis Han was half lying on the ground, and his nose was still bleeding. It was so miserable. Luo Zhan suddenly felt that he was an angel, a fairy. His heart was so kind. "Ah, I really owe you." He went forward to help him up, let him lean against the door, and went to find tissues. He grabbed a pack of tissues for him to wipe his face, and then went to find a pack of wet tissues from Louis Han. After wiping his face clean, he plugged his nostrils with the tissue. The nosebleeds soon stopped. Luo Zhan helped him take out the tissue, patted his face, and growled, "Get up, go back to bed." Louis Han was half drunk and half awake. When he heard this, he wanted to get up, but his body was not strong enough. Before he could sit up straight, he fell back down again. Luo Zhan hurriedly held him and dragged him toward the inside. But Louis Han's body had been soaked by water, and he was soaked. With a heavy sigh, Luo Zhan reached out to unbutton him, took off his suit shirt, and then touched his pants. Oh my God, he was soaked. Unbuckling his belt, Luo Zhan unbuttoned his pants, and the straight and handsome pants were pulled down. Luo Zhan suddenly felt relaxed. Humph. Make me delicious food tomorrow, and I will fry you up. Damn, I am so tired. Luo Zhan lifted his hands, carried him on his back, and quickly threw him on the bed, only a few steps away from the bed. Luo Zhan lay on top of him, deliberately pressed his body, and snorted, "Good, make me delicious food tomorrow. Do you hear me?" After that, he threw his hands back, but at this time, Louis Han's big hands not only did not leave, but also pulled him. Luo Zhan immediately fell down, and his body fell steadily on top of him. Don't go. Louis Han was half awake and shouted. Then he held Luo Zhan and rolled onto the bed. Luo Zhan's eyes widened, and inexplicably, his cheeks were slightly hot. But in the next second, as if struck by lightning, he struggled madly and shouted, "Hey, hey, hey, don't mess around, young man. How many times have I told you, I'm not gay, I'm not gay, I'm not gay." After pushing Louis Han away, Luo Zhan climbed up and felt that his face was burning. What the hell? Damn it, he's crazy. Luo Zhan was so angry that he stomped his feet. He turned around and kicked Louis Han's butt, which was only in his underwear. Pervert. Damn drunkard. Holy shit. After 4 or 5 kicks, Luo Zhan withdrew his foot. And Louis Han was kicked awake. He turned around and looked at Luo Zhan. His cheeks were red, and his eyes were also red. He was looking at him blankly, and had no idea what had happened. Luo Zhan felt guilty when he looked at him like that. He turned around, stomped his feet, and left, slamming the door, making a loud noise. Chapter 684. Luo Zhan went back to the room, fell on the bed, and looked up at the ceiling. It was already dawn, but Luo Zhan couldn't fall asleep. Thinking of the inexplicable feeling just now, Luo Zhan found a very, very serious problem. Could it be that he had already? The night was as dark as ink, and it was drizzling. This was a small affiliated village far away from downtown Kingstown. There were small old houses everywhere. In the village, there was a small restaurant in the east. Just a dozen meters away from the restaurant, there was a smelly and dark alley. There were a few tall garbage cans in it, and stray cats, stray dogs, and cat-sized mice were running around. A tall, slender figure was wrapped in tattered, dark-colored clothes. The clothes did not cover her body, revealing her deep cleavage. At the same time, there were also 2 long, white, and sexy thighs. However, her hair was messy like a bird's nest, forming a sharp contrast with her unusually fair and delicate skin. At this moment, she was squatting next to a garbage bag, turning over the fresh leftovers that the restaurant had just thrown out. It was already late at night, and the surroundings were dark. There were not many cameras on the roads in the village, and not many people would choose to go out at this time. After the restaurant owner closed the door, he looked around. After making sure that there was no one, he rubbed his hands covetously and walked into the alley. He had been paying attention to this woman for a long time. Her figure looked particularly good, and her skin was very good, but she looked a little crazy. It was estimated that she was the silly daughter of a rich man who got lost and wandered by herself. He didn't expect that he could find such a loophole. Rubbing his hands and walking in, the restaurant owner quickly found the woman he had been coveting for several days. He walked over and whispered, "Miss? The person who was called turned back, and a pair of eyes looked particularly beautiful under the streetlight. The boss felt even more excited, and his eyes flashed with obvious covetousness. He said, "Do you need help? I see that you have been here for several days. Why don't I take you to a place to wash?" The woman did not speak. The boss tentatively reached out, gently put his hand on her hand, and pulled. The woman did not resist, and the boss was even happier. He whispered, "Where do you live? Do you want me to contact your family?" The woman shook her head as if she was extremely frightened. The boss was even more certain that this woman must be a fool. He joyfully pulled her up and tentatively pushed aside her messy hair that looked like a bird's nest. With the help of the street lights, the boss could clearly see her thighs, her big breasts, and all kinds of beautiful female symbols. He was drooling. Finally, his gaze landed on her face. The boss used his fingers to push her hair aside, and suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. The boss screamed and took a step back. In the next second, he tripped over a trash bag on the ground and fell on his butt. The boss was filled with fear. He looked at the woman in front of him and turned pale with fright. Under the woman's disheveled hair, there was a huge fire scar on her face. She looked ferocious and terrifying, so ugly that people couldn't help but run away. Chapter 685. Hee hee. The woman chuckled and walked towards the boss. Her long legs were full and smooth like jade, and her voice was as beautiful as a bell. However, her face had become a nightmarish existence. The restaurant owner screamed in horror and stepped back. He wanted to get up, but the woman had already pounced on him and pulled him over. Rumble. The muffled sound of thunder was suppressed, as if it was ringing in his ears. "Didn't you want to have sex with me? Why are you running now? I can do it. I am very clean." The voice was soft, and the woman's little hand had already touched the restaurant owner's face. The woman's voice was very soft and charming. It was not hard to imagine that before her face was disfigured, she must have been a great beauty. Lightning flashed. Combined with the streetlights, the restaurant owner clearly saw her whole face. He was shocked and lost his voice. "Aren't you Tang something?" Tang Menjing laughed. "You have a good memory." The stench of a homeless man made the restaurant owner nauseous. However, Tang Menjing had clearly noticed his intention. With a pair of murderous eyes, Tang Menjing pressed his head hard and stabbed the dagger hidden in her hand into his throat. As soon as the dagger went in, the bright red blood splashed. Because of the pain, the restaurant owner's pupils suddenly enlarged. He twisted and struggled crazily, his hands and feet twitching, trying to catch her, but soon, she dodged. Tang Menjing stepped down and sank the dagger deeper into his throat. The restaurant owner twitched a few times, and then there was no more movement. His eyes were wide open, looking up at the dark sky covered with dark clouds. The fresh and bright look in his eyes became empty inch by inch. Tang Menjing loved this process. Holding his head up, she gently kissed his forehead and whispered, "Rest in peace." As soon as she finished speaking, she reached into his pocket. There was a wallet, a bunch of keys, and a pile of bills and receipts. Squeezing her fingers into the neck, Tang Menjing pulled out the dagger. Bright red blood spurted out and splashed on her body. The dagger was full of bright red blood. Tang Menjing wiped it on his body and put it away. Standing up, Tang Menjing dragged him by his legs and hid him behind a pile of trash cans inside the store. After dealing with everything, he leisurely walked out, opened the restaurant door with his key, locked it from the inside, and swaggered into the lounge of the restaurant. There were a few sets of middle-aged men's clothes, and they were very big. After taking a hot shower, Tang Menjing carefully washed her knotted hair and blew it dry before putting on the middle-aged man's clothes. White shirt and black trousers, very big. Fortunately, she had a belt. After fastening it, Tang Menjing went to the cashier and put all the money into her pocket. There were more than 2,000 in total, enough for her to get back to Kingstown. Then, it was time to find out. She put on a mask and went to the kitchen to find a chef's hat. Holding the umbrella, she went to the back of the alley, found her high heels, and left with the umbrella. The rain was getting heavier. The blood on the ground had already been washed away, leaving no trace behind. The figure went farther and farther. In the middle of the night in this small village, no one noticed anything wrong. In the boundless darkness, under the pitter-patter of the heavy rain, a voice quietly rippled out. Li Xicheng, I'm back. Chapter 686. Early in the morning, about 5:00, the baby began to cry. Qingyu was in a daze and called, Rong Rui. Yeah. Rong Rui's voice sounded. Qingyu noticed that he quickly got up and went to the small crib next to her to pick up the baby. Qingyu heard that the baby was crying less and fell asleep holding the quilt. When she woke up again, it was already dawn. Qingyu rubbed her short hair and looked around. There were no children or men. After getting out of bed and washing, she opened the door and heard a female voice coming from outside. Qingyu was immediately alarmed and walked quickly to the living room. At a glance, she saw Su Qianxi holding her daughter. On the sofa, there was another man sitting. Before Qingyu could see clearly, she was pushed back by Rong Rui. Looking at her, she found that Rong Rui was looking at her with some reproach. He said, Go get dressed. There is a guest. Oh. Qingyu was wearing a thin negligee. Hearing that, she touched her nose and went back in. After changing clothes, Su Qianxi was playing with the baby. The little girl, who was more than a month old, looked at her with a pair of amber eyes, as if she had seen something novel. Looking sideways at the other side of the sofa, she saw a man sitting across from Rong Rui. Wearing a straight and neat suit, his profile was angular, and his temperament was obviously softer than 4 years ago. Qingyu saw him, stared and exclaimed excitedly, Boss. Hearing her voice, Li Xicheng turned his head and looked over. His originally expressionless face still did not change. However, this was Li Xicheng. It was really Li Xicheng. Qingyu was shocked and immediately trotted over there, asking, Who am I? Seeing her like this, his dark and deep eyes became deeper. Slightly raising an eyebrow, he asked, You are asking me? Oh my God, it's really you. Qingyu was so excited that her eyes were red. Standing on the edge of the sofa, she exclaimed, The news and Weibo have been going crazy recently, but seeing it with my own eyes, it really feels like a dream. Boss, you are finally back. Rong Rui had never agreed to let her visit. The reason was that the old house of the Li family was too far away from them. She was so angry that she stamped her feet. Fortunately, they did not go yesterday, and today they came, which was far beyond her expectation. Li Xicheng's eyes slightly curved as he asked, I am back. Do you want to come back too? Qingyu was dazed. What? Wasn't she here all the time? Li Xicheng suddenly realized that his patience had improved a lot. He explained, Come back and be my assistant. I'm not used to working with someone else. Okay. Qingyu's eyes lit up, and she did not hesitate. I am bored to death at home. No. Rong Rui vetoed. The child is only a month old. He hasn't weaned yet. I didn't say I should go now. She said. You. Li said, Mom, more importantly, Rong Rui was basically doing laundry, changing diapers, feeding milk, and coaxing the baby. These things were all done by Rong Rui. If she took the work from him, he would be angry with her. As a result, she spent most of her time at home playing games, holding the baby, cooking, and occasionally coaxing men. She had nothing else to do. If she continued like this, she would grow hair. Everyone went to bed early. Chapter 687. Obviously, it was the life that all women wanted, but Qingyu felt that it was boring no matter how she lived it. It was at that time that she knew what everyone has his own ambition meant. No. Rong Rui stopped her, looked at her across Li Xicheng, and said, I can still afford you. Don't go. Oh, it's not a question of whether I can afford it or not. I have to find something to do. Otherwise, it will be too boring at home. Qingyu looked at him and pouted, a bit coquettishly. Rong-rui couldn't stand her look the most. Looking away, his tone was still firm. I said no means no. Qingyu knew that in a short period of time, he would probably not agree. She simply stopped talking and would come back at night. Glaring at him unhappily, Qingyu quickly turned and walked to where Su Qianxi was, holding her daughter. Rong-rui made coffee for Li Xicheng. The aroma of freshly ground coffee and the smoke were rising. The simple and exquisite coffee cup in his hand showed the taste of the owner. Li Xicheng looked at the exquisite and beautiful cup in his hand and asked casually, "Do you know where they are?" Rong-rui was adding a piece of sugar to the coffee. Hearing Li Xicheng's words, he slightly paused, gently stirred the coffee spoon, and raised an eyebrow. Who? You know who I am talking about. The voices of the two men were very low. Su Qianxi and Qingyu were playing with the baby. Although they knew that they were talking, neither of them paid attention to what they were talking about. Rong-rui took a sip of coffee and chuckled. New coffee from Italy. The taste is not strong at the beginning but strong at the end. Try it. Li Xicheng suddenly smiled, took a sip of coffee, and nodded. It's really good. Don't you want some sugar? I like plain coffee. Slowly putting down the coffee cup, Li Xicheng looked at him with a faint smile. With a sharp look, he slowly said, Tang Menjing also ran away. I know. Rong-rui felt that it was not enough and added a little more milk. But I have nothing to do with her for a long time. Even if you ask me, I don't know. I only ask them. They, of course, referred to them. Rong-rui knew very well who he was talking about. However, Rong-rui still looked calm. His amber eyes looked innocent as he shrugged. I really don't know. The smile on Li Xicheng's face widened. Qingyu still doesn't know that those two guys are your relatives, right? Rong-rui's eyes darkened and he chuckled. Are you threatening me? I'm just asking. Why are you so nervous? Compared with Rong-rui's gloomy face, Li Xicheng looked calm. He took a sip of coffee, elegant and noble, but inexplicably irritating. Rong-rui's face darkened. I won't let her go back to work for you. She will come back. No. Li Xicheng squinted at him and said, I know her better than you do. Li Xicheng, you are even more annoying than before. His sinister and cunning skills had also reached the pinnacle. Thinking of the defeat of TL and the Bo group, Rong-rui couldn't help but be impressed by this man, and he was even more afraid of him. However, this did not mean that he was friendly to him. Li Xicheng raised his eyebrows. You are not bad either. Pfft. Rong-rui still wanted to say something, but Li Xicheng had already turned his head, looked at Qingyu, and suggested, why don't we have dinner together? By the way. As he spoke, he had already looked at Rong-rui with a deep and provocative look. Let's talk. Rong-rui secretly gritted his teeth. Despicable. Dash. Chapter 688. Qingyu did not notice the strangeness of Rong-rui. Hearing Li Xicheng's proposal, she felt a little surprised. However, holding the baby, she did not think much. She just glanced at Li Xicheng and happily said, Okay, what do you want to eat? Just go to the place I used to like very much. Li Xicheng deliberately frowned, glanced at Rong-rui, and said, What is it called? Deep Sea Hui. Qingyu quickly answered. When Rong-rui heard Qingyu's words, his face suddenly became gloomy. Li Xicheng quietly curled his lips and nodded. Yes, that's it. Do you want to make an appointment first? Okay, come on, Susu, help me hold the baby. I'll go find a phone. Su Qianxi took the baby, and Qingyu quickly left, not noticing that her husband's face had become as dark as the bottom of a pot. When Qingyu entered the room, Li Xicheng suddenly chuckled, leaned on the sofa, and said slowly, She has been with me for 3 years. It must have taken you a lot of effort to pursue her, right? Rong Rui looked sullen and did not speak. Su Qianxi looked at these two men and vaguely felt that something was wrong. Just looking at the atmosphere between the two of them, she knew it was not very harmonious, but she did not know what had happened. Li Xiqing met her gaze, looked calm and indifferent, stood up, tidied up his clothes, and walked out of the sofa. Let's go. Qingyu has already finished the phone call. Okay. Su Qianxi also had a deep understanding of Qingyu's efficiency, but such words fell into Rong Rui's ears, which was not very comfortable. Qingyu had a crush on Li Xiqing, which he knew very well. And she did not hide her admiration and worship for Li Xiqing. Rong Rui had no doubt that if Li Xiqing insisted, or a little provocation, Qingyu would definitely change sides. It was just a matter of time. Despicable. Sure enough, just a few minutes after Li Xiqing's voice fell, Qingyu had already come out with her bag and a mother's backpack. Directly throwing the mother's backpack to Rong Rui, she went to the utility room and pushed out a stroller. After wrapping the baby in, she said, "Let's go, I have already booked a seat." But when she turned her head, she found that Rong Rui's face became even more gloomy. She looked inexplicably and asked, "What's wrong?" "I'm fine." Rong Rui's face gradually returned to normal, but he still looked pale. He shook his head and said slowly, "Let's go." Today, Li Xiqing was driving his old modified sports car, which could not fit the stroller at all. After Qingyu took the car from the garage, the 4 adults and 1 child went to the restaurant where Qingyu had booked a seat. Neither of the 2 women had a big appetite, and Qingyu and Su Qianxi quickly talked about their mothers. Li Xiqing looked indifferent, eating slowly. Compared with Rong Rui, who looked tense, he was obviously much calmer. "Qingyu," he suddenly called. She held the baby and looked up. "Huh? You know Rong Rui's family?" "Li Xiqing," Rong Rui interrupted him with a gloomy face. "Shall we go to your company later?" Li Xiqing raised an eyebrow and smiled. "Sure." Chapter 689. Our company. Qingyu had not removed her role from being the senior assistant of the Li family. After all, she had been there for 7 years. It was normal for her to have deep feelings for the Li family. However, it made Rong Rui even more upset. It was like his wife's heart was on another man's side, which was absolutely not a good feeling. He just cares about you and wants to make sure you are safe, right? Li Xiqing's voice was calm, and he took a sip of tea. Rong Rui chuckled and said, "Yes." Both Qingyu and Su Qianxi felt that these 2 people were a bit weird and looked at them strangely. The 2 looked at each other and saw confusion in each other's eyes. After dinner, Rong Rui drove the 2 women to the entrance of a large shopping mall of the Li group and sent them shopping. Then he drove away. Qingyu and Su Qianxi pushed the stroller into the mall and bought a lot of things. Just when they were sitting in a dessert shop, Su Qianxi saw a familiar face. A young man, fair and clean, with a thin face and pimples on his cheeks, wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, was sitting and chatting with a woman. The more Su Qianxi looked at the man, the more familiar she felt. Qingyu noticed where she was looking and said, "Do you know him? This person seems to be a relative of Tang Menjing's family. His surname is Lu. This person should be a doctor. Don't you have a classmate named Lu Anan? She is this person's sister." "Doctor? Lu?" Su Qianxi immediately remembered and said, "Lu Quan." "Yes, that's him." "Why?" "This person framed me. He lied to me, saying that I had AIDS, which scared me so much that I almost divorced Li Xiqing." Su Qianxi later thought about getting even with him, but after all kinds of things, she had forgotten about it over time. At this moment, seeing this Lu Quan, Su Qianxi could no longer hold back the violence that she had suppressed for a long time. Damn, no way. So unethical. Qingyu found it hard to believe. "I heard that this guy got in because of his connections." Later, the Tang family lost, which seemed to have some impact, but now it seems that the impact is not big. Lu Quan was talking to the girl in front of him. He couldn't hear what they were saying, but from afar, he could tell that the girl was overjoyed. She couldn't stand it anymore. Wait a minute. With that, he got up and left. What do you want? No response. After about 10 minutes, she came back and sat in front of Jianghu. Where did you go? Shoo, watched the show. She took a sip of her drink and curled her lips. Not long after, a girl with exquisite makeup and a pair of sunglasses walked in aggressively. He walked up to Lu Quan, gasping for breath. Lu Quan and the girl opposite him were shocked. The girl in sunglasses slammed a stack of white paper on the table and shouted angrily, Lu Quan. You bastard. Lu Quan was stunned. Before he could react, the girl in sunglasses picked up the half-empty drink in front of the girl on the table and splashed it on his face. You're crazy. Lu Quan was so angry that he reached out to grab the girl. But the girl had already taken a big step back and shouted, Lu Quan, you're a doctor. Bah. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and ran while crying. Chapter 690. After that, a lot of people in the dessert shop looked over. On the pregnancy report, there was a big, pregnant confirmed, sign. The girl stared at Lu Quan incredulously. Lu Quan saw his girlfriend's expression and knew something bad was going to happen. He quickly waved his hand and yelled, It's not me. I don't know her. That woman is a psycho. Baby, you. Before he finished, the girl slapped the report on his face and roared, If it's not you, then what is going on? Lu Quan was annoyed and yelled, Are you F***king psycho? I told you it's not me. This shout shocked even the passers-by and made them look inside. The girl's eyes were red from the yelling and soon noticed all kinds of strange looks around. How embarrassing. The girl stood up, clutching her bag. She picked up the coffee in front of him angrily. Pfft. She splashed the warm coffee on his face and walked away. Lu Quan was furious and reached out to pull the girl. However, the girl was agile and could be seen to be a martial artist. She turned around and kicked him with her stiletto heels. Then she threw her bag and kneed him in the lower abdomen, roaring, F***ck off, scumbag. Lu Quan covered his crotch and squatted down. His eyes were red and teary. Jianghu secretly clicked her tongue and whispered, You did this? She gestured for her to keep quiet and looked at Lu Quan with interest. Lu Quan covered his crotch, but soon paid the bill and limped away. Some people had already taken photos and posted them on Weibo. When the words, Lu Quan and doctor were put together, it would definitely cause a sensation on Weibo, and Lu Quan would be found out. However, it was not enough. She picked up her phone and clicked on Luo Zhan's profile picture. She sent a message, Lu Quan, a doctor of infectious diseases, the son of the Lu family related to the Tang family. His sister, Lu Anan, helped me dig out all kinds of evidence about this family and this Lu Quan. I want to screw him up. Luo Zhan sent a horrified emoji and then a smirk. Z, you are in a good mood recently. Qin Si Su, no problem. Z, how did this person offend you? Qin Si Su, unscrupulous doctor with bad medical ethics. He lied to me and said I had AIDS. Although it was 4 years ago, I am still angry. Z, damn, of course. Leave it to me. Qin Si Su, ask my husband to give you a raise of salary. Z, sister-in-law, I love you. Seeing Luo Zhan's message, Su Qinsi smiled and typed, screenshot. That's not fair. You can't cheat me like this. She couldn't help laughing. She took a screenshot and sent it to him. When Li Xiqing received the news, he was in a nearby cafe. In the comfortable and elegant private room, there were only the two of them. Seeing her message, Li Xiqing glanced at it. His eyes softened slightly, and he put it aside without replying. Looking at Rong Rui, he asked slowly, Really? Of course. But you have to be careful. Tang Menjing has lost her mind. She has been seeing a psychiatrist all these years, and her face is ruined. As long as she is not dead, she will come back to you. Take care of your wife and children. Bring bodyguards. Chapter 691. You don't have to worry about that. Li Xiqing stood up and looked down at him with a faint smile. Let's go. My wife is waiting for me to pick her up. Rong Rui also stood up and glanced at him contemptuously. Not only is my wife waiting, but I am also waiting. Oh. Li Xiqing nodded. My children are waiting at home. After a pause, he added, twins. Rong Rui pursed his lips in disdain and walked out first. Li Xiqing said leisurely behind him, and an older son. Childish. Rong Rui was disdainful. What's there to compare? However, although he said so, he felt itchy in his heart. Li Xiqing had 3 children, and he only had 1. Why? No, he had to make a few more. He could not lose at the starting line. Rong Rui made up his mind and walked out. Li Xiqing raised an eyebrow and felt inexplicably happy. Childish? It felt so good, okay? Rong Rui took the car at the entrance of the cafe, picked up his wife, children, and Su Qianxi, and finally went to the driver's seat. Unknowingly, he noticed that there were different gazes around him. Rong Rui had no other advantages, but he was very alert. Someone was following them. Looking around, Rong Rui whispered to Li Xiqing, who was not far away, someone is watching us. Do you feel it? Hearing that, Li Xiqing just glanced at him leisurely, then opened the door of the passenger seat and calmly sat in. It seemed that he had known this scene for a long time. Rong Rui felt a bit incredulous. How could Li Xiqing be so calm? Frowning, he suddenly thought of what Li Xiqing had just said, you don't have to worry about that. So that was it. Rong Rui suddenly felt that he was still too naive and did not know this person well. Also, with this man's temperament, how could he not bring someone out in this situation? Chuckling, Rong Rui sat in the driver's seat and looked at Li Xiqing with an extra layer of brilliance that Cheng Yu and Su Qianxi could not understand. After the rain, the air in Kingstown was mixed with the fragrance of soil and grass. More than 100 meters in front of the old house of the Li family, there was a small lake. Next to the small lake, there were tall trees, evergreen all year round. The small flowers and grass were fresh and beautiful. Today, there were 3 drawing boards and 3 small stools by the lake. There were 3 little fellows sitting on the small stools. At this moment, they were all sitting there methodically, holding crayons and drawing on the drawing board. 3 bodyguards stood around them, quiet and straight. The tutor was patrolling the surroundings while they were drawing. When she saw the mixed colors that Li Jianyu had drawn, she squatted down and asked, Ursu, tell me, what are you drawing? She pointed to a green line at the bottom of the white paper and said, this is the grass. She pointed to the blue lump in the middle. This is the lake. There was a dark green lump next to it and a brown one. This is the small tree. I haven't finished drawing the rest. I'll show you when I'm done. The tutor was amused and touched the little guy's head. You're amazing. Li Jianyue's little face was raised, and she looked a little proud. Then she turned her head to look at Li Jianxian beside her and shouted, Brother, look at my painting. Chapter 692. It was very simple, but it was many times better than Li Jianyue's. Li Jianxian glanced at his sister's painting and cast a contemptuous look. It's ugly. Humph, yours is ugly. Li Jianyue was unhappy and turned to look at the other side. Brother Mosen, do you think my painting is good? Li Mosen was painting the lake. When he heard Li Jianyue's words, he turned his head and looked at it carefully. He nodded. Yes. Li Jianyue was immediately happy. She smiled and walked down from the stool with her little skirt. Her chubby little hand reached out and hugged Li Mosen's little head. She kissed him and said in a sweet voice, Brother Mosen is so nice." Little Mosen's white and tender skin suddenly showed a faint pink on his cheeks. Li Jianrui did not realize what kind of reaction her actions had brought to Li Mosen. She smiled and returned to the stool and sat down again. She took the crayon and began to draw. The tutor and the bodyguards laughed and looked at Li Mosen with ridicule in their eyes. Although Li Mosen was young, he was already very sensible. When he met their eyes, his little face became redder. But he still pretended not to see it. He held a pink crayon and drew carefully on the edge of the small lake. The tutor found that he was drawing this little pink thing more seriously than when he was drawing other things. After looking at it, the tutor found that he wanted to draw a person with his lines. A little pink person? This little guy is drawing Li Ersu? The tutor didn't say anything. He looked at it silently with a smile on his face. It was harmonious and peaceful on the edge of the small lake. No one noticed that on the other side of the small lake, a woman was looking at this side with a telescope. A pair of eyes, after looking around, fell on the little boy on the far left. Dark brown hair, white skin different from other Asians, a pair of blue eyes, staring at the front, looking very pink and jade, with an extremely serious expression. She actually adopted this child. That's easy, haha. As soon as he returned to the company, Li Xiqing took over all the loopholes and drawbacks that had accumulated in the past. Just like that, he was busy for a whole week. Oh Ming said he would return to Kingstown in 3 or 4 days. But a whole week had passed, and Li Xiqing had not seen him. He called twice to ask, and Oh Ming said, yes, yes, yes. But what could possibly happen? Even Oh Ming didn't know what was going on. He had finished his work a long time ago, but he didn't want to go back to the capital. Because he had found the only regret he had ever spoken of. 3 days ago, after signing the last contract, he had lunch with his partner and was ready to catch the afternoon flight back to Kingstown. For years. For 4 whole years, Oh Ming hadn't seen his good brother again. Hearing his voice again after being dead for 4 years, it was impossible for Oh Ming not to be excited. That was why the journey to the airport was so hurried. However, extreme joy begets sorrow. The driver, who was almost sent flying by his urging, accidentally hit someone when he turned a corner. The driver turned pale with fright. He quickly opened the door and got out of the car to check. It was a woman who had been knocked down. Chapter 693. The driver immediately went up and asked anxiously, Miss, are you okay?" The thing that was in the woman's hands had fallen to the ground. It was a laptop. It was the latest model of an internationally famous computer brand, worth more than 100,000 yuan. The woman's body was dirty, but she didn't have time to check herself at the moment. She quickly climbed to the computer. The body of the computer had a metal shell. At the moment, the body had been deformed. When it was opened, the screen inside had been broken. It looked very embarrassing. When the woman in the beige business suit saw the computer, her eyes were red and her voice was choked. "Computer, my computer, 120,000 yuan. What should I do now? It's not mine." The voice was urgent and fast. It penetrated the car window and fell directly into Oh Ming's ears. His face, which was originally gloomy because of the delay, suddenly changed. He hadn't heard this voice for 4 years. Was it an illusion? Oh Ming's body was tense, but for a moment, he forgot to react. In front, the driver glanced at the woman's body. There was not much damage, so he breathed a sigh of relief. However, when he heard the 120,000 yuan computer, he was also scared and his legs became weak. He shouted with some anger and guilt, 120,000 yuan? Girl, you are blackmailing me. Is this broken computer worth 120,000 yuan? The woman stood up and staggered. A large piece of flesh had been rubbed off from her knees and elbows. There was even sand deeply embedded in them, and the blood was not flowing. At first glance, it could be seen how hot it was. The woman was so angry that she picked up the computer and threw it at the driver. "What do you mean? You hit me and you don't want to pay? You hit my computer and you have to pay for it. I am in a hurry to use it now. Give me the same one now. Hearing this voice again, Ming was pulled back to reality. It's her, it's really her. Ming's heart suddenly beat faster. He opened the door and stepped out. The driver was still a little guilty, but when he heard the woman's tone, he immediately became angry and said, "You are a liar. You deliberately got hit here and then blackmailed me with a computer. Even those old men and women are not as ruthless as you." Lily still wanted to say something, but when she saw the tall man coming out of the car, her face suddenly changed. Even when she was hit by the car, her face was not so ugly. It's him. It's him. Lily subconsciously took a step back. Her heart felt like it was being pulled by a string. In an instant, it almost broke through her skin and burst out of her chest. For the past 4 years, the memories that he had deliberately tried not to recall suddenly poured out of his nest. Every image, every scene, outlined the 2 words that were deeply embedded in her soul. Oh Ming, oh Ming. Lily looked at him in shock and wanted to escape. But computers, that computer was a new one that her boss had just received. It had just been sent for testing and brought back. It was just a distance of a road away. Even if you beat her to death, she would never have imagined that a computer that was worth more than $100,000 would be wasted on such a short journey. What was worse was that she couldn't afford it at all. Chapter 694. When she said this, she did not dare to look in Ming's direction at all. Lily was panicking, but she pretended to be calm and shouted, "And the medical expenses. You must compensate me for the mental damage and the wages I lost when I was injured. Didn't you see the green light? Are you blind?" Lily was not polite. She reached out and asked for the money, which was equivalent to asking for the driver's life. Of course, he recognized the brand and the model. The lowest standard cost tens of thousands. For an ordinary working-class person, this number was equivalent to an astronomical figure. How could he afford to pay for it? Helplessly, he looked back at the car. Only then did he find that the distinguished person in the car had come down and was quietly watching everything that was happening in front of him. Ming stood behind the driver, with a pair of peach blossom eyes with a sharp edge, sweeping over her bloody hands and feet. The original white and tender skin was deeply embedded in the sand at the moment. The skin was obviously badly abraded, and at the same time, it was like the same wound was rubbed on his heart. Unconsciously, he had already felt the same. Obviously, he had decided to forget this woman. As early as 4 years ago, when she plotted to kill his children, he should have completely cut off the relationship with this woman. In the past 4 years, Ming had deliberately refrained from checking her news, as if she had disappeared from the world. But he did not expect that she would be in the capital. Moreover, she was so close to him. It turned out that she had been nearby these days. It turned out that they had been so close these days. Thinking of this, Ming immediately had an indescribable feeling in his heart. Master this. The driver was speechless and looked confused. I will send this lady to the hospital. You send the computer for inspection. After verification, find the company finance and I will pay for it. After 4 years, Ming's voice was a little more mature than before. At the moment, his voice seemed a little cold. Compared with before, he was a little less charming and a little less sloppy. After 4 years, Ming was not the same as before. When Lily heard his voice, her eyes were hot, but she quickly reacted and roared, "What inspection? You can pay for it. I will go to the hospital myself." Master the plane. Ming looked at her indifferently. He looked at the driver and said slowly, "Didn't you hear me?" The driver trembled and nodded. He hurriedly picked up the broken computer. Lily's expression changed. Wait. But Ming was the driver's boss. After hearing Ming's words, he didn't care about Lily at all. He took the computer and ran away. Lily's hands and feet hurt so badly that she stopped after a few steps. There were cars behind him, and all kinds of horns were honking. Oh Ming acted as if he hadn't heard her. He stepped forward and couldn't help but put his hand on the part of her hand that wasn't injured. Without saying a word, he pulled her to the car. Yu Lily's face was even paler, and she yelled, "Oh, don't touch me." But Oh Ming didn't care. He yanked her and threw her into the front passenger seat. He quickly walked to the driver's seat and sat down. Chapter 695. Oh Ming's face was more serious. He reached out and pulled her hard, pressing her on the seat. He closed the door, and without waiting for her to fasten the seatbelt, he started the car and rushed forward. Yu Lily was caught off guard. She leaned forward and screamed with her hands on the airbag in front of her. She was still in shock. She turned her head angrily and roared with red eyes, "Oh Ming!" In Oh Ming's beautiful peach blossom eyes, there was an indescribable light. His heart, which had been empty for 4 years, was suddenly filled. The long-lost sense of fulfillment actually filled him up. Of course, the pleasure of revenge also continuously washed over him. Looking at what she was wearing, it was also very different from her previous style. There was no makeup on her face, her long hair was a little messy, her skin was a little dark yellow, and there were faint dark circles under her eyes. Her skin looked much worse than before. The style of the fabric was ugly, old and rustic, and the quality was very poor. Plus this pair of shoes, a set of clothes, would it cost 500 yuan? Or even lower? A 120,000 yuan computer was not as expensive as a bag he bought for her before. Seeing her so scared and anxious expression, Oh Ming's heart flashed faintly. Seeing her so miserable, he was relieved. Look, even without her, he was still as carefree and unrestrained as ever, wandering among the flowers. Who can't live without him? It was just that she, Yu Lily, was once again beaten back to her original state of being the treasure in his hands. You deserve it. Out of the blue, Oh Ming laughed and sped up. Yu Lily was a little scared by his laughter, and she was even more afraid. She pulled the seat belt over and buckled it, panting in shock. She knew him too well. Absolutely, can't fall into his hands. Yu Lily's heart was beating very fast, she gritted her teeth, and her eyes were firm. The car stopped at the gate of the hospital. Yu Lily immediately opened the door and jumped out, running toward the back. Just then, an empty taxi came over. Yu Lily was like grabbing a life-saving straw, reaching out and waving. But when the car just stopped, Yu Lily was lifted up by a big hand. Oh Ming didn't say anything. He grabbed her with great strength and didn't show any tenderness. No, Oh Ming. Yu Lily was afraid. She knew him so well. Oh Ming was angry, very angry. However, compared to when he was angry in the past, he was more ruthless, more cold, and more frightening. Yu Lily squatted down, trying to use her weight to slow his footsteps and struggle free. Oh Ming sensed her intentions and sneered. He simply bent over and carried her in his arms. My driver hit you. I should compensate you for your medical expenses. Miss you, please be quiet. Miss you. Those 3 cold words made Yu Lily feel a dull pain in her heart. Since they first met 7 years ago, Oh Ming had either called her Yu Lily or Yu Lily. These 3 unfamiliar words coming out of his mouth made her feel even worse than if he had directly scolded her. She was wrong. One mistake for 4 years. But it was too late. She knew that he hated her. He hated that she had killed his child, hated that she had trampled on his heart. The blood on Yu Lily's body rubbed against Oh Ming's, and the wound was burning. Then you can give me the money, and I will see it myself. How can you do that? Oh Ming chuckled. What if you blackmail me? Don't forget that you have a criminal record, miss you. Busy as a dog. Chapter 696. Yu Lily felt even more humiliated. She stared at him and roared, why don't you just give me a few thousand yuan? You are such a big group. Are you afraid of being blackmailed? I'm sorry. Oh Ming strode into the hospital with her in his arms. He looked into the distance with a pair of beautiful peach eyes and said coldly, "It's not easy to make money. I don't trust you." Yu Lily was speechless. She was so angry that her chest hurt. Someone in the hospital recognized Oh Ming and immediately opened the door for him. Oh Ming was invited into the emergency room. He threw Yu Lily on the bed. There was not the slightest bit of love or gentleness. Yu Lily fell on the bed and hit the wound. She sobbed with tears in her eyes. Seeing this, Oh Ming was expressionless. He coldly said to the doctor beside him, "She was hit by a car. Give her a checkup." "Yes, Master O." After that, despite Yu Lily's slightly surprised objection, Oh Ming sat straight at the door and folded his hands. His hands were still stained with her blood. Oh Ming stared at her for a long time and suddenly felt ridiculous. How big of a deal? He even brought this woman to the hospital in person. He looked at his watch. It had been more than 40 minutes. He couldn't catch the plane. He actually didn't even hurry to see his brother in order to revenge a woman. When did Oh Ming become so narrow-minded? Leaning on the back of the chair in the corridor, Oh Ming slightly narrowed his eyes, and his mind was blank. Even he didn't know what he was doing. Fool, what was the difference between this Oh Ming and the one 4 years ago? After the wound was treated and various examinations were done, Yu Lily came out after it was confirmed that there was no big problem. But when she came out, Oh Ming was gone. She asked the nurse on duty and found that Oh Ming had already left. Before he left, he also left a large sum of money for medical expenses. After deducting the money used for Yu Lily's examination, the rest of the money was more than 20,000 yuan, which was converted into cash and given to Yu Lily. Yu Lily looked at the 2 stacks of money in her hands and was in a trance. At the same time, her heart was also indescribably disappointed. Gone, just gone. How could this be? This man actually left just like that. Yu Lily lowered her eyes and her head. Her big eyes were dim. He limped out of the hospital, took a taxi and left. What she didn't see was that there was a black sedan parked not far from the entrance of the hospital. Oh Ming held a cigarette between his long fingers. The smoke slowly lingered, and the smell of smoke filled the entire car. Leaning against the back of the chair, Oh Ming looked lazy and casual. Oh Ming watched helplessly as Yu Lily left before he started the car and drove back. The assistant stayed in the capital because Oh Ming didn't show up. After waiting for more than 2 hours at the airport, she received a call from Oh Ming. "I still have other things to do. I won't be returning to Kingstown for now." The assistant was puzzled. Is there anything else? Even if there was something else, could it be more important than seeing Li Xicheng? No way, right? Young Master O. The assistant wanted to say something, but before he could say it, he heard Oh Ming say again, "Help me check a person who should be working near the famous garden in the capital." "Okay, what's the name?" Name. Chapter 697. When the assistant heard the name, he felt a little familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had heard it. Especially her financial situation, marriage status, private life status, and work situation. In short, all of them must be checked. The assistant understood and quickly asked, "Master O, is there any other schedule that is particularly important? Do you need me to arrange anything?" However, Oh Ming did not answer, and the phone had been hung up. The assistant felt even more depressed. He deliberately opened the book and looked at Oh Ming's schedule. It seemed like there wasn't any itinerary that was particularly important. Strange, however, Oh Ming's mind was notoriously difficult to guess. If he guessed incorrectly, he might even make him unhappy. After thinking about it, the assistant decided to play dumb. Since he didn't answer the question, there must be a reason. When Oh Ming wanted him to do something, he would ask. Why should he ask so much? The assistant suddenly felt very witty, and then went to check the so-called Yu Lily. Oh Ming had a suite on the top floor of the capital branch. When he moved in again, many people were very surprised. However, no one dared to ask, and they left in a hurry after dealing with it. Ming lay on the bed, closed his eyes, and felt very tired. It had been 4 years, and he had lost too many things. The phone rang, and it was the assistant. Master O, I found out that Lily came to the capital 4 years ago and now works in the Electronic Science and Technology Department of Xingfeng Group. She is just an ordinary IT worker. 2 or 3 years ago, after renting a room with a girl for a year, she was cheated of all her money, and the loss reached more than 1 million yuan. In addition to her poor health, she spent a lot of money. She is currently single and lives alone. It seems that she used to work in Kingstown. According to her colleagues, this woman is likely to have had a miscarriage, and her physical condition is very poor. Cheated of all her money? When Ming was supporting her, he hardly gave her any money. Basically, Lily got whatever she wanted, and she didn't ask him for money. According to Ming's memory, the money she had received might not be as much as 1 million yuan. The loss reached more than 1 million yuan, that is to say, all her money had been cheated, so how did she survive? What about socially? She is very popular and has a high EQ. She always smiles when she meets people, but she also has a personality and is very straightforward. But because of this, her boss doesn't pay much attention to her. Now in Xingfeng, her annual salary is between 100,000 and 150,000 yuan. She is also responsible for some small things and doesn't have many big projects in hand. Yeah, Ming responded, and then he didn't say anything else. The assistant waited for a moment and realized that Ming wasn't going to say anything else. Then, he said, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up first. Help me check her address and send it to me. When the assistant heard this, he seemed to understand something. So, what was more important than seeing Li Xiqing was picking up girls? TSK, a typical example of valuing a lover over a friend. Although he thought so, the assistant didn't have the guts to say it out loud. He answered honestly, yes. After Ming hung up, the driver called. Chapter 698. Lily felt that she was so unlucky today. Not only was she targeted by Su Jing, but she also had to take the computer out of her busy schedule and was hit by a car. Not only that, but she also met Ming. Life was always like this. When people were unlucky, even a sip of cold water would get stuck in the teeth. Many parts of her body were wrapped in gauze, and she looked very embarrassed and miserable. When she returned to the company, the security guards all knew her. One of them had a good relationship with her. When he saw Lily coming back, he quickly surrounded her and was shocked. What happened to you? What the hell? He actually fell to this state. Although he was already next to her, he did not dare to touch her at all. He opened his hands slightly and looked shocked. Lily smiled brightly and waved her hand. What's with your expression? Haven't you seen a car accident like me? No way, you went to help Sister Su get the computer and had a car accident? Hey, don't say it. Lily looked like she could not bear to look back. The computer is broken, directly broken, and the person has not paid me yet. Wait for me to go back first, and then I will tell you what happened. The security guard looked distressed. Lily, you are like this. Don't go up. Sister Sue's temper is so bad, and she will certainly not stop scolding you because you are injured. Why don't you go down first, and I will go and talk to you? No, you do your thing. Go ahead. Lily waved her hand and quickly walked in. But the smell of ointment was very eye-catching. Many people saw Lily like this, and they would exclaim and ask, Lily, what's wrong with you? Along the way, Lily smiled so much that her face was stiff. Finally, she arrived at Su Jing's office. She rang the doorbell and went in. Su Jing was scolding a newcomer with harsh words. Lily had been in Xingfeng for less than a year. Su Jing was the head of the department, and she was famous for being a tigress. She would scold a newcomer without saying a word, and once scolded him until he resigned. Although Yu Lily was very popular in this department and was very popular among her colleagues, she couldn't let go of herself in front of this woman. The reason was just that she was beautiful. As a rich woman in her 30s, Su Jing was already married. At home, she was also a strong wife and a weak husband. Half a month ago, when her husband came to pick her up from work, he took a few glances at Yu Lily and was slapped by Su Jing in public. Since then, Su Jing had been picking on her in different ways. She was so scared that she didn't even dare to put on makeup anymore. However, Yu Lily's show of weakness did not make Su Jing restrain herself much. Instead, he was targeting her more and more. With a sigh, Yu Lily limped in and called out, "Sister Su." Su Jing turned to look at her. Seeing her like that, she said in a bitter voice, "Oh, isn't this the belle of our department, Yu Lily? What's wrong with you? How did you end up like this?" Sour. There was an indescribable jealousy in his tone. Yu Lily silently bowed her head and said, "I was hit by a car on the way back to get the computer." Su Jing was shocked, and her first reaction was to blurt out, "What about the computer?" Yu Lily felt a little uncomfortable. This woman, she didn't ask me if I was okay now, but her first reaction was like this? The computer was damaged by a car. Chapter 699. Such a voice was full of disdain and contempt. Moreover, Su Jing was still so provocative. Such a sharp tone was even more unbearable. Anyone who heard such words would not feel good, let alone a woman like Yu Lily. Yu Lily seemed to see something strange. She glanced at her and sneered, "Isn't it just 120,000 yuan? Any bag I take out is more expensive than your computer." Everyone in the company knew that Yu Lily had a lot of bags, and each of them was a luxury product, which was incompatible with her usual clothes. But with Yu Lily's usual temperament and aura, it was very suitable. At the beginning, everyone still complained, but over time, they got used to it. At the same time, such a situation also made many people very envious. Su Jing was one of them, but she couldn't afford it, and her husband couldn't afford it either. At this moment, hearing Yu Lily's words, she immediately became angry and shouted, "What kind of attitude is this? What kind of attitude is this? You think you're great? I was hit like this. Are you fucking blind?" Yu Lily's attitude angered Su Jing even more, and she roared, "I am your boss. It's normal to ask you to do something. It's because you are my boss that I help you do these things outside of work. This is your own personal computer, not the company's. You forced me to use my working time to get it, causing me to have a car accident. What about this account? Huh, it's funny. Do you have any evidence to prove that your car accident was caused by me?" Yu Lily heard the words, raised her eyebrows and sneered, "Do you have any evidence to prove that your computer was broken in my hands?" Su Jing was furious and shouted, "Is this the attitude you should have when talking to your boss? Boss? You're just a department head. Do you really think you're so great?" Yu Lily looked at her coldly without any warmth. "When I was the director of the O Group's clothing store, you were still in some remote corner." Yu Lily couldn't stand it. She was already angry, and in the past few years, she had been extremely unlucky. She was cheated of all her money by her good friend, and it was not easy to find a job with a decent income, but she met such a boss. Su Jing did not cross the line in the past, so Yu Lily tolerated it. However, in the past half a month, Su Jing had become more and more outrageous and disgusting. Since she was going to be scolded anyway, she might as well avenge the people in the company. When Su Jing heard this, she laughed out loud. "What are you talking about? Oh, clan? Do you know what that place is? You haven't even finished your university studies, yet you want to be the director of the O Group? Ha 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 ha." Yu Lily dropped out of school when she was in her junior year, which was her eternal regret. At this moment, being brought up by Su Jing as a joke had undoubtedly stepped on Yu Lily's sore spot. Yu Lily looked at Su Jing coldly, and the temperature in her eyes was getting lower and lower. She sneered sympathetically and said, "No wonder your husband stared at me last time. It turns out that you look like a zombie when you smile. With your size 43 horse face, you need to use double hyaluronic acid, right?" Chapter 700. Yu Lily was injured. When she stepped back, her wound was pulled and she felt a burning pain. But she quickly avoided it. Yu Lily looked at Su Jing and sneered, "The zombie is angry. What do you want to do? Kill me?" Su Jing's face was even more ugly. She turned around and picked up the stapler on the table, smashing it toward Yu Lily's face. Yu Lily reached out to block it, and the stapler hit her hand, causing a sudden pain. Then, Su Jing rushed toward her and grabbed her hair. Ah! Yu Lily felt more pain when she was pressed. When she looked at Su Jing's ferocious face, she was even more annoyed and shouted, "Are you King sick? Help!" The door of Su Jing's office was not closed, so people quickly ran in from outside. Everyone saw that they were fighting together and quickly came forward to pull them apart. Su Jing's movements were getting bigger and bigger, but Yu Lily couldn't. She felt a burning pain in her body. She looked down and saw that some of the gauze was bleeding again. King retard. Yu Lily clenched her teeth in pain and held her breath in her heart. She picked up the stapler on the ground and threw it toward Su Jing's face. Pa! The stapler landed firmly on Su Jing's chin with a dull thud. Su Jing screamed and covered her chin. She was in so much pain that she burst into tears and shouted, "You Lily, you bitch, you broke my new computer and hit me. Do you think that you can use the male colleagues in the company to stand on your side just because you are beautiful?" People around heard this and looked at each other. "Everyone, help me get justice. Yu Lily wants to keep my 120,000 yuan computer for herself. It took me a long time to save up money to buy it. It took me half a month to send it from the United States. I haven't used it yet, but it was stolen by her. She said it was a car accident. Bah! It is clear that she wants to steal my computer and make up a trick." The colleagues who had a good relationship with Yu Lily all looked at Yu Lily. One of them asked, "Lily, is it true?" Yu Lily was so angry that she laughed. On her beautiful and delicate face, there was contempt and disdain. Yu Lily looked at Su Jing and asked, "How many kilograms of hyaluronic acid did you inject? Not only is your face big, but your skin is also so thick. If you remove the powder, you will probably have a natural hornet's nest." Su Jing couldn't stand it when others insulted her face. Especially when Yu Lily said all kinds of insults without a single dirty word. She was so angry that her body trembled. She was so excited that she was about to stand up. Su Jing almost rushed up to hit her, but soon she rolled her eyes and seemed to think of something. She sneered, "Yu Lily, do you know how long you will be sentenced for a crime worth 120,000 yuan? At least a few years. I originally wanted to give you a chance to repent and reflect. I didn't expect you to be so ungrateful. Then don't blame me for being impolite." You Lily, don't blame me for being rude. Either you compensate and settle it in private, or I will see you in court. A crime of more than 100,000 is enough for you to suffer." Su Jing stood there, looking domineering. She looked at her with hatred in her eyes. Yu Lily felt ridiculous. When she was about to say something, a security guard came in and said, "Yu Lily, someone is looking for you." Behind the security guard was a middle-aged man carrying a box. When the box was opened, it was a badly damaged laptop. Chapter 701. "Excuse me, which one of you is Miss Yu Lily?" "I am," Yu Lily responded. "I am the director of the distributor of this computer company. My surname is Wu. Just now, a gentleman sent this machine to our testing department for testing. After verifying the serial number and the internal information of the model, we found that this machine is a second-hand mobile phone we sold half a month ago, worth 48,888 yuan. But I heard that you asked the gentleman for the price of a brand new machine, 120,000 yuan. The gentleman thought it was very unreasonable, so he entrusted me to verify it and report the situation to you. Second-hand machine. More than 40,000 yuan. Yu Lily was stunned, looked at Su Jing, and blurted out, "Didn't you say 120,000 yuan? Are you lying to me?" Su Jing's face suddenly changed, and she roared, "Nonsense. More than 40,000 yuan? I obviously bought it for 120,000 yuan. Now it was broken by this woman, and I haven't used it a few times." The man's expression was a little strange, and he said, "Are you the original owner of this machine?" Su Jing's face changed slightly, but she quickly calmed down, nodded, and said, "Yes." The man took out a piece of paper from his pocket, opened it, and said, "Miss Su Jing, right?" Su Jing did not speak, looked at his hands that were opening the paper, and the original expression on her face suddenly changed. "This is the record list of your purchase from our company half a month ago, with your ID number and your autograph on it. The total price is 48,888 yuan. For the time being, there is no brand new model in our domestic branch. If necessary, it needs to be imported directly from the United States." Yu Lily opened her eyes wide, took the bill, and saw the name of the transaction, Su Jing. And the signature on it, Yu Lily had seen countless times. Isn't it Su Jing's autograph? That is to say, this computer was actually purchased by Su Jing, and she lied to me. She wanted to cheat me of my money. Yu Lily saw it clearly and was furious. She held the paper, pointed to the autograph, and shouted, "Su Jing, how do you explain this?" Su Jing's face changed greatly, and she was speechless for a while. Everyone was speechless, and the way they looked at Su Jing had changed a lot. Just now, it was true that Yu Lily broke Su Jing's computer, and it was also true that Yu Lily had a car accident. Seeing Su Jing's angry look, everyone subconsciously thought that it was true. However, no one had expected such a sudden turn of events. What is going on? Just now, Su Jing said that she wanted to let Yu Lily go to jail, but now, Yu Lily became the victim. What? It turns out that she wants to cheat money. Isn't Sister Su very rich? Why would she want to cheat Lily's money? Hey, I'm afraid it's not as simple as cheating money. She just said that Yu Lily stole her computer, which is worth more than 100,000 yuan. She will be sentenced for a long time. Huh, what's the big deal now? Su Jing herself has become a fraud, and the evidence is conclusive. Chapter 702. And the person who came to deliver the computer, after seeing such a scene, took out a thick yellow envelope from his satchel and said, "This is the compensation that the gentleman just gave you. It is 50,000 yuan in total. Please count it." Then, he handed it to Yu Lily. Yu Lily was so angry that she grabbed the envelope and saw the 5 dozen bills in it at a glance. After counting out 1,100 yuan, she threw the rest to Su Jing and said, "I will compensate you, but there is a lot of debt between us. Now there are witnesses and material evidence. Everyone knows that you want to cheat me. The amount of fraud is as high as 100,000 yuan. Sister Su, do you know how to sentence you?" Su Jing's face became more ugly and suddenly became as pale as paper. Seeing this, Yu Lily's smile on her face became more bright and she said, "What? Weren't you very arrogant just now? Why are you so quiet now? Didn't you say you were going to sue me?" "Sue me, Su Jing. It's okay to be a bad person, but it's not good to be so blatant, right?" Obviously, Yu Lily was more arrogant and domineering than before. The sudden changes of the situation, one after another, made Su Jing unable to guard against it. Originally, she wanted to use this second-hand computer to frame Yu Lily, saying that she had stolen her computer parts, so that she could be charged with theft. Just now, when he heard that she had broken the computer, he was even more surprised. Wasn't this coquettish fox arrogant? She would send her to prison and see how she could be arrogant. But she would never have thought that Yu Lily had a helper. Such a helper was actually able to directly invite the dealer over and expose her plan in front of everyone, causing Su Jing to lose all her face. This slap on the face was so painful that it was burning. Originally, she thought that the victory was in her grasp, but it was reversed in an instant. This made Su Jing, who had always been independent and had a sense of superiority, unable to accept it at all. Her face suddenly became serious and she said, "How can you prove that this computer is mine?" The person from the dealer hadn't left yet. Hearing Su Jing's words, he immediately said, "We have the data records of the hard disk and CPU inside, as well as the matching serial numbers and codes. If you don't think this is your computer, we can check the system. It's very difficult to fake." Su Jing was speechless, and her expression turned even uglier. While she was speaking, she heard Yu Lily's voice. Everyone looked over and saw that she was on the phone. After she reported the address, she said, "There is a supervisor in the computer department named Su Jing." Only then did everyone realize that Yu Lily was calling the police. No one had expected Yu Lily to be so straightforward, including Su Jing. Su Jing's first reaction was to pounce over and shout, "Bitch, what are you doing?" Yu Lily was injured. At the same time, because of Su Jing's sudden attack, she was not prepared at all. Being pounced on like this, he staggered and took a small step back. However, because of this, the phone also fell to the ground, and the interface displayed the three numbers 110. Just looking at it made people feel shocked. Su Jing picked up the phone and said, "It's okay. I'm sorry." Chapter 703. Su Jing roared, "What do you want?" "I want to call the police." "Didn't you see it?" Yu Lily spread her hands and looked innocent. "But the phone was hung up by you. You made me have to call again. It's not appropriate for you to do this." Su Jing gritted her teeth and said, "Yu Lily. Hey, what's wrong?" Yu Lily smiled, which made Su Jing tremble with anger. Su Jing calmed down, took a deep breath, and said, "Let's settle this in private." "What do you want?" Yu Lily sneered and looked at her coldly. "I don't want anything. I just want to call the police and sue you for malicious fraud." "Don't go too far. How much money do you want? Tell me." Yu Lily ignored her words and continued to say, "As for other things, such as you used working hours to invest in stocks, forced the people under you to do personal things during working hours, and then forced us to work overtime and so on. Everyone knows about these things, but you are so good at hiding it from the higher-ups. The higher-ups don't know about it yet. Now that the boss knows about it, I'm afraid he can't agree with your character, can he? Right, Mr. Li?" While talking, he looked at the door behind Su Jing. When Su Jing heard that, her face suddenly changed. She turned her head and saw the big boss, Mr. Li, standing behind her. His middle-aged fat face was very ugly. Mr. Li came in and looked at Su Jing's face, which was so ugly that it was almost sweating. He shouted wildly, "What the hell is going on? Everyone is gathered here. Don't you need to work? Don't you need to work?" The strong smell of ointment on Yu Lily's body and the bleeding wound wrapped in gauze were very eye-catching. Mr. Li saw Yu Lily's clothes and asked, "What's the matter?" Yu Lily gave a brief account of what had happened, but when it came to Su Jing's actions, she added a lot of embellishment. Several times, Su Jing wanted to interrupt, but Yu Lily did not give her a chance to do so. Mr. Li also deterred Su Jing with his eyes, so that she could not say a word. In the end, Yu Lily was a little thirsty. She shrugged and spread her hands. "If you don't believe me, you can ask them. Everyone on the scene is my witness." There is no doubt about Su Jing's ability, but her character is really intolerable. "Mr. Li, I advise you to consider replacing her. Didn't you find that this department changes people very frequently? It has a lot to do with this woman, but because this woman is your wife's cousin, no one dares to say anything." When Chief Li heard that, he got even angrier. Work is work, relationship is relationship. Do you think I promoted her because of her relationship? Isn't it? Yu Lily spread her hands again, looking helpless. Someone nudged her, hinting for her to keep quiet. But Yu Lily smiled and said, I don't want to work here anyway. I know you won't fire her. Working for this kind of person is simply asking for trouble. Mr. Li, I quit. Li Lily was speechless. Yu Lily's straightforward words made everyone in the room secretly applaud in their hearts. But in front of Chief Li and Su Jing, everyone did not dare to be obvious. Chief Li's face became more ugly. When he was about to say something, Yu Lily said, however, it is a fact that Su Jing wanted to cheat me. If you want to settle it privately, I don't want money. I just want Su Jing to apologize to me. Otherwise, I can only give her a taste of her own medicine. Dash. Chapter 704. Apologize? Apologize to this bitch? Su Jing looked strange and said sarcastically, do you think I don't know that you now owe a lot of debt? You have no money and you have to live like a princess. Who can stand you? You poor ghost, how much money do you want? Just tell me directly. Yu Lily sneered and said, I want your husband. You should give him to me. Don't pretend to be rich. Apologize to me. When Su Jing heard that, she was even more furious and rushed in the direction of Yu Lily. The people around were all shocked and rushed forward to stop her. Yu Lily stood in the same place and looked at her mobile phone lying quietly on the ground not far behind Su Jing. She turned around, walked to Su Jing's desk, picked up the phone, and turned on the speaker. After pressing 2 numbers, Su Jing's face changed and shouted, How dare you? Do you want to see if I dare? Yu Lily pressed the last number, put the microphone next to her ear, and raised her eyebrows provocatively. Apologize. No. Mr. Li was afraid. He went forward to take Yu Lily's phone and hung up directly. He looked at Su Jing and shouted, Apologize. Su Jing was shocked and couldn't believe it. Brother-in-law, you were in the wrong in the first place, so you should apologize. Didn't you see how badly Xiao Yu was hurt because of your computer? What if there are scars all over a girl's body? And the computer has been compensated to you. You should apologize to her. Su Jing was obviously not convinced. She looked at Mr. Li and said unwillingly, I don't want to. Hearing this, Mr. Li's face darkened and he warned, Do you really want to go to jail? Go to jail? Who would want to go to jail? But Su Jing was not reconciled. Why should I apologize to this bitch who seduces people everywhere? Since she came, almost all the people in the company were around her. No matter men or women. Relying on the tricks of a fox, she pretended to be a bitch. She was not reconciled, and she just couldn't see her doing well. Either you apologize, or I'll call the police. As she spoke, she picked up the phone and teased, It's just going to jail. Sister Su isn't afraid, right? Manager Li's face also darkened. Su Jing, do you really think I don't know what you're doing in the dark? Do you really want me to tell you everything? Su Jing felt even more humiliated. Not only were her colleagues and subordinates not on her side, but even her brother-in-law did not support her. Why? What's so good about you, Lily? Su Jing was so angry that her eyes turned red and tears welled up in an instant. However, under Manager Li's warning gaze, she still lowered her head and whispered, I'm sorry. What? I didn't hear anything. Yu Lily was still holding the microphone in her hand. She put one hand next to her ear to make a trumpet. Can you say that again? Su Jing was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. She calmed down and said in a serious voice, I'm sorry. Chapter 705. Yu Lily's provocative words made many people at the scene laugh, and they were secretly happy. But the boss was here, and Su Jing was also in front of them. Except for Yu Lily, no one else dared to smile. Yu Lily's attitude made Su Jing almost mad, and she roared, Don't go too far. Yu Lily seemed to be scared, and she turned her head sideways with a look of disgust. Yu Lily seemed to be frightened. She turned her head sideways with a look of disgust, but she quickly turned her head back and said, "Look, isn't it quite loud? I really didn't hear what you just said. My ears are not very good. You know, why don't you just speak like you used to? Why do you have to pretend to be gentle?" "I'm sorry." Su Jing roared, and her eyes were about to crack, and she looked terrible. Yu Lily looked scared, patted her chest, and said with a frightened face, "If you don't want to, then don't. Why do you have to scare people? Don't you know that people can be scared to death? What the F***? You not only cheat, but also want to kill people." While talking, Yu Lily had picked up the phone again. Yu Lily turned on the speaker and pressed 2 numbers. Almost everyone could hear it clearly. Su Jing took a deep breath and said quickly, "I'm sorry, Yu Lily, I shouldn't have framed you, I shouldn't have targeted you, please forgive me." Yu Lily just pressed the 3rd number, and before it was connected, she hung up. Looking at Su Jing, Yu Lily smiled slightly and raised her eyebrows. "Are you sincere?" Su Jing wanted to kill her, but at this time, she still nodded against her conscience, sincere. "Go, you are so fake." Yu Lily sneered, "But I am a generous person, and I will forgive you." After that, she looked at Mr. Li. "Mr. Li, I don't want to work anymore. Please let me go. I can't do work with my injuries." Mr. Li quickly said, I know you have a grudge against the company. Now, I announce that Su Jing will be fired." When such a voice fell, everyone was shocked. What? Fire Su Jing? People around looked at each other and couldn't believe it. Even Su Jing herself had not expected such an outcome. No, brother-in-law, however, before Su Jing's voice had finished, she had been interrupted by Mr. Li. Mr. Li looked at Yu Lily and said in a high voice, "Little Yu, stay at home and recuperate. Don't worry about the company. I will give you half a month to adjust your vacation. When you come back, you will be the head of this department. What do you think?" Such a result was undoubtedly dropping a heavy bomb on Su Jing once again. Su Jing stood dumbfounded on the spot. She turned pale with fright and shouted, "Brother-in-law, how can you do this?" Mr. Li ignored her directly and looked at Xiao Zhang of the HR department and said, "Go through the resignation procedures for Su Jing. Such a person will cause public anger in the company. It's better to ask her to leave early." After a pause, he looked at Su Jing and said, "Don't you want a child? You always complain about being busy with work. Now I'll give you this time to have a child and raise the child. Adjust yourself well and get ready to have a child." Chapter 706. Why not? The company is mine. I can keep whoever I want. Mr. Li's face darkened. "Also, didn't I tell you not to call me brother-in-law in the company? It's not good." Mr. Li's heartlessness not only made Su Jing feel disheartened, but also Yu Lily herself was confused. What's going on? Mr. Li wants to keep me, but not Su Jing? Su Jing, who has been a supervisor for several years, is fired. Is this for real? Yu Lily felt like she was dreaming. She had done that and provoked him, but he still gave her a promotion? It was like seeing a ghost. Yu Lily was dumbfounded, but the others were already cheering. Yu Lily is a supervisor? Damn, if Yu Lily can't be a supervisor, who can be a supervisor? Don't forget who helped you with the case in CG Village. Yes, and the case of Wanli Technology. Damn, if it weren't for her, I would have been killed by Su Jing. Ah, you have all been helped. I thought I was the only one who got benefits. I was wondering if Lily was secretly in love with me. Bah. You think too much. Lily is a goddess. Do you know what a goddess is? She can only be seen from a distance and not played with. The discussion around her sounded, and Yu Lily continued to be in a state of confusion. Su Jing protested and shouted, "How can you do this? Who is Yu Lily? Can she lead this department well? Brother-in-law, don't be fooled by her beauty." If. That's right. You mean, I only look at her appearance and not at her ability? Mr. Li's face darkened. If that's the case, you would have been fired long ago. Do you think I will keep you in the company for so long? Do you really think I don't know what you are doing in secret? Su Jing, don't blame me for offending you. Su Jing was stunned when she heard that. Mr. Li ignored her, looked at Yu Lily and said, Xiao Yu, you go back first. Come back after a while. It will not be good if there are scars on your body. Yu Lily suddenly came to her senses and stammered, Mr. Li, are you serious? Of course, Mr. Li's expression softened a little. I've seen your ability. The report you wrote a few days ago was very good. I believe you can do it. Also, you seem to be very popular. Keep it up in the future. Only then did Yu Lily completely recover. Her face was full of joy, and her heart was inexplicably touched. With Su Jing at the top, Yu Lily hadn't gotten any big projects, and she hadn't had any opportunities to stand out. She thought she could only show off in front of her colleagues. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Yu Lily nodded excitedly and shouted in a loud voice, definitely. Mr. Li nodded in satisfaction. Go back first, I'll ask the driver to send you. No need, I can go back by myself. Yes, you can go downstairs. I'll ask the driver to wait for you at the door. Yu Lily was too lazy to take a taxi, so she nodded and said, Thank you, Mr. Li. Mr. Li's eyes were even more curved, flashing a trace of strange light that no one noticed. Then he pressed the elevator and went upstairs again. Chapter 707. Among them, the one who was the most upset should be Su Jing. When Su Jing heard the cheers of the crowd, she was full of disbelief. Especially when she saw that they were so happy and proud, she was even more angry. With a scream, Su Jing rushed in the direction of Yu Lily and shouted, Bitch, you must have used some bad means. You must have slept with him. Otherwise, how could you be promoted? There are many people more qualified than you. Anyone can be promoted, but why you? The voice was fierce, and the expression was terrible. Yu Lily's colleagues, who had a good relationship with her, immediately stood in front of her and protected her. Two male colleagues grabbed Su Jing from both sides. Su Jing was even more angry and shouted, I heard that you used to be the mistress of a rich second generation. Later, you were abandoned by the rich second generation because you couldn't have children. You must be very happy to be a mistress for so many years. Bah, now you actually use this kind of dirty means to deal with my brother-in-law. Yu Lily, you are so disgusting, bitch. Su Jing's words sounded so convincing as if they were the truth. When Yu Lily heard it, her face slowly sank. How did Su Jing know this kind of thing? She obviously didn't tell anyone. However, with the previous record, the credibility of Su Jing's words had been greatly reduced. How could the colleagues around her believe Su Jing's words? Hearing Su Jing's words, someone said sarcastically, Why, a beautiful woman must be a mistress of a rich second generation? That's right. A woman like you can only raise a useless old pervert, an old gigolo. Ha ha ha. Yes, you are ugly and you blame others who are beautiful. What the hell? When Su Jing announced that she was fired, this group of people felt very proud. At this time, there was such an opportunity to hit Su Jing, how could they not seize it? It's true. Su Jing shouted angrily, Yu Lily, this woman, how clean do you think she is? She was just a whore who would sleep with a man for money. I really don't know what you like about this kind of person, this kind of bitch. Ha. Yu Lily chuckled and deliberately made a charming look. However, when combined with the injuries all over his body, it looked very awkward no matter how one looked at it. Yu Lily winked at Su Jing and said, If you are beautiful, you can sell your body. As for someone like you, I don't think anyone would want you even if you sold your body. Hey, whether I sell it or not has nothing to do with you. If you have the time, why don't you save some money for plastic surgery? As he spoke, he looked at her sympathetically and said, Why don't I help you a little? Here's 1,000 yuan. Here, take one. He crumpled the bill and threw it at Su Jing. This kind of naked humiliation caused Su Jing to tremble with anger. It's not enough? There's nothing I can do. I don't have any left. This is all I have. I still need to heal. Hey, why don't you ask someone else for some? Beg, what kind of person would ask someone for money? Yu Lily's words were undoubtedly lethal to a woman like Su Jing, who had always prided herself on being a wealthy woman. Being held back by two male colleagues, Su Jing felt like she was suffering from internal injuries. Chapter 708. When she went downstairs, she found that Mr. Li's driver was already waiting for her downstairs. After being sent home, Yu Lily took out the key and opened the door. This was a relatively old community, the rent was relatively cheap, and the community environment was safe, so Yu Lily had lived here for 2 years. The door was a relatively thick security door, and when she opened it, she saw a small living room. This was a single apartment, with 1 bedroom and 1 living room, but there was only a small sofa in it, and there was not even a TV. Not far from the sofa was a small computer desk with a notebook on it, and behind it was a small table for eating. After putting these things, there was only a walking path. The kitchen and the toilet were connected, and the total area was less than 3 square meters. But the decoration was very beautiful and clean, very leisurely and modest. Yu Lily stretched, took out the medicine from her bag, put it on the small table, and then walked into the room. Just as she opened the door, Yu Lily immediately froze in place. In the room, there was a single bed, a wardrobe, a bookshelf, and a wall full of photos. However, these were very familiar furnishings, not enough to cause Yu Lily to be shocked. What made Yu Lily freeze in place was the uninvited guest in front of her. On the single bed that should have been clean and tidy, there was a man lying on it. The man was tall and lying on the bed at the moment. He seemed to have fallen asleep, but at this moment, he noticed Yu Lily coming in and opened his eyes. His dark brown eyes were tired and sleepy, and his peach blossom eyes were blurred. He looked at Yu Lily, but she couldn't see his emotions. Yu Lily was stunned, and soon her face changed. Subconsciously, she looked at the wall full of photos. The photo wall was full of photos of her and Oh Ming. In addition to the group photos, there were also photos of Oh Ming. All the photo frames were hung up, and the wall opposite the bed was densely hung. Yu Lily's heart suddenly jumped, and she had the feeling of a runaway child caught by an adult. She was embarrassed and guilty, but at the same time, she couldn't help but feel happy. The man on the bed lifted the quilt, got out of bed, and slowly sat on the edge of the bed, looking at her with a pair of eyes. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Yu Lily stood at the door and stared at him for a long time before she opened her mouth and asked, "Why are you here?" When Oh Ming heard that, his lips curled into a smile, but he didn't say anything. He slowly took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit it up. Then he looked up at her, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. There was a strong sense of sarcasm and self-deprecation in his smile. There was also an indescribable feeling. Yu Lily looked at his smile and felt her heart ache. "What are you laughing at? What's so funny?" Yu Lily wanted to ask him, but she saw him take out a notebook from under the quilt. Seeing the cover of the notebook, Yu Lily was shocked and subconsciously looked at the photo wall. Under it was a desk. There should have been a notebook on the desk. That was the notebook she used to draw on. Now, it was empty. Oh Ming just flashed the notebook, and Yu Lily's face became even paler. Chapter 709. The strength was so great that the photo frame on it suddenly fell down. The sound of breaking was deafening in this narrow room. Oh Ming took a long step and walked in front of Yu Lily. His lips were curved with an evil and contemptuous smile. His pair of peach blossom eyes were slightly narrowed. He looked at her face and exhaled a long puff of smoke. Then, he pushed her hard, without pity, past her, and strode away. From beginning to end, he didn't say a word. Yu Lily's eyes were red and slightly painful. This kind of pain fiercely pulled the scar on her heart that had been faintly painful for 4 years, but in the past 4 years, it had never been so painful. Enduring the pain, she stepped on the glass on the ground to pick up the book. On the book, there were broken glass shards, which suddenly pierced into her fingers, making her feel painful. She opened the book, and one of the pages inside, impressively had a horizontal label. On it was a picture of a woman holding a dagger in her hand, and she personally stabbed it into her stomach. Below, there was blood. Next to it was the words, "I am pregnant with Oh Ming's child, but I don't want to keep it. What should I do?" "Then don't keep it. I went out to buy medicine, and the doctor said to take it for 3 days. On the 2nd day, I broke up with him. I don't want to be with him. This kind of man is not someone I can handle at all. He is too abnormal, too dictatorial, too *king. I want to be free. Let's go, Yu Lily." The next day, he didn't agree with her proposal to break up. She was angry and quarreled with him. At first, Oh Ming just coldly warned her, but in the end, he pressed her on the bed, and Yu Lily's stomach hit the edge of the bed. At that time, he pressed her down and put his knee on her stomach, warning her and noticing her abnormality. Later, he found that she was bleeding. A lot of blood. At that time, Oh Ming was scared and stunned. What was Yu Lily like at that time? She held her stomach, and her face was blue and white with pain, but when she saw him like that, she inexplicably had a kind of revenge pleasure. For 3 years, she had been kept by him for 3 years. In those 3 years, many people outside knew that she was Oh Ming's girlfriend, and at the same time, many people knew that she was kept by him. A kept woman. What a disgusting word. Because of these 2 words, she received a lot of supercilious looks. He could finally be free. Yu Lily was bleeding at that time, and her body was already covered in cold sweat. His face was pale, but he let out an extremely cruel laugh. Such laughter was not only cruel to Oh Ming, but even Yu Lily herself had never imagined that she could laugh like that. "Oh Ming, do you know? I'm pregnant." Oh Ming was stunned. He looked at the large pool of blood below her and was at a loss of what to do. "Your child has been squashed to death by you. Are you happy?" Happy. She didn't know if Oh Ming would be happy, but she herself wasn't as happy as she had imagined. On the contrary, there was an indescribable sadness. Her child, her first child. How magical, there was actually a small life inside her body. But now, for the sake of her so-called freedom, she was going to eradicate this little life. She cried and laughed at the same time. Looking at Oh Ming, she fainted from the pain. When he woke up, he was in the middle of surgery. The doctor said there were 2 gestational sacs. Chapter 710. The smoke rose slowly, with a light smell of tobacco, and the whole car was a bit depressed. Oh Ming sat in the car, with an ashtray in front of him. There were already 4 or 5 cigarette butts in the ashtray. Looking at the dark sky ahead, Oh Ming's mood was indescribably empty. Just in the afternoon, when he just saw the photos on the wall, he thought, however, it was just what he thought. Shock, anger, and unspeakable sorrow. It turned out that his children were not killed by himself. However, this fact was more hurtful than Yu Lily's words in the past. How much hatred did he have to kill his first child, his own pair of twins? How much did he hate him that he didn't even want his own children? She had been with him for 3 years. 3 years, even a dog would have feelings, let alone a person. Oh Ming looked at the sky in the distance, and in his dark brown eyes, there was only indifference. Putting out the cigarette, Oh Ming started the car and slowly drove on the road. From now on, the original Oh Ming was completely dead. After Li Xiqing took over the company's affairs, the company's performance was much better than before. So much that Su Qianxi was proud, but also indescribably frustrated. She thought that she had done a good job. Looking at the quarterly report in her hand, Su Qianxi felt a bit of a headache. The children were running around in the living room, chasing each other and playing until they were all sweaty. Su Qianxi put the document back and looked at the time. It was almost 6:00. She raised her voice and said, "Quiet down and rest. Come and sit for 10 minutes." Li Jianrui chased after Li Mosen with a smile, suddenly stopped and shouted, 123, "Blockhead, don't talk and don't move." Li Mosen and Li Jianxian stopped at once. Both of them were panting, but they really didn't move. Li Jianxian still maintained the running posture, and Li Mosen looked like he wanted to speak. Such a strange scene, Su Qianxi couldn't help laughing and shouted, "The password is invalid." Li Mosen and Li Jianxian suddenly breathed a sigh of relief, trotted over to the sofa where Su Qianxi was and sat down. Li Jianhua stuck out her tongue and ran toward Su Qianxi. She shouted, "Mom, why isn't Dad home yet?" Su Qianxi poked her nose and said, "Girls are not allowed to talk with their tongues out. Be normal." "Can a boy do it?" Li Jianxian asked. "Boys can't do it either. You have to learn from your parents and be more normal, understand?" "But, Uncle Luo Zhan is also like this when he talks to Dad." Li Mosen looked puzzled. "Why can adults do it, but not children?" Hearing that, Su Qianxi paused and quickly said, "Uncle Luo is not a boy or a girl. He is a man, so he can make such a joke. You children should not learn bad things, understand?" Oh. The children didn't really understand. Anyway, the result was that Uncle Luo was a bad example. Li Jianhua widened her big round eyes, which were dark and bright. She asked again, "Mommy, when is Daddy coming back?" Chapter 7:11. Yes. The little girl held Su Qianxi's leg and looked at her with a smile. Her big black eyes were full of sparkling light. She asked, "Dad's birthday, will there be a cake?" Su Qianxi smiled and picked her up. "I have asked your dad to bring you a cake." Su Qianxi's words made the children's eyes light up. Especially Li Jianrui, who cheered and shouted, "I want strawberry flavor." "What should I do?" "I bought chocolate flavor." A voice came from afar, and Li Siqing walked in slowly from the outside. He was tall, and compared with more than half a month ago, he looked much better than before. When he first came back, Li Siqing was too thin. Li Jianrui heard Li Siqing's words, and her eyes lit up. She ran in the direction of Li Siqing and shouted, "Dad." Her short legs were running fast, and she ran in the direction of Li Siqing, hugging his thigh. "Dad, hug." Li Siqing held a big cake in one hand and held the little girl in the other. "Did you listen to the teacher today?" "Yes." "Kiss Dad." Li Jianhua reached out and hugged Li Siqing's face. Li Siqing's lips curled into a smile. "Happy birthday, Dad." Li Jianrui put one hand on Li Siqing's shoulder and said with a smile, but her eyes couldn't help looking down at the cake in Li Siqing's hand. "Dad, can I see the cake?" Li Siqing laughed and gently knocked her forehead with his and said, "Eat first, and then you can eat the cake." "Okay." Li Jianrui cheered happily. "Then let's eat quickly." Li Mosen also walked over a little weakly and said, "Uncle, happy birthday." Lu Sa just came out and said, "It's time to eat. Go and tell Grandpa and Grandma to eat." "Happy birthday." Li Jianxian shouted with a red face and went to the kitchen to wash his hands. Su Qianxi walked to Li Mosen, put her soft hand on his head, and said softly, "Don't call me uncle, call me Dad." Li Mosen heard that and was stunned. He looked up at Su Qianxi, thinking that he had heard wrong. Su Qianxi looked at him, stroked his dark brown hair, and said, "Call me Mom, don't call me Auntie." Li Mosen's fair and tender skin blushed when he heard that. Li Mosen nodded his head vigorously. With a look of surprise on his face, he shouted, "Mom! Daddy! Happy birthday to Dad!" She had him look in Li Siqing's direction. Li Mosen turned to look at Li Siqing excitedly and shouted in a loud voice, "Dad, happy birthday!" Li Siqing's eyes softened as he handed the cake to Su Qianxi. He bent down and picked up his son. Thank you, son. This is the best birthday present I've ever received. Son. Li Mosen felt like he was dreaming. He reached out and hugged Li Xicheng, laughing happily. Dad, happy birthday. Li Xicheng's smile widened as he walked toward the dining room with the little guy in his arms. Let's go eat. Li Jianxian watched from afar and felt inexplicably uncomfortable. This was his father, not Li Mosen's father. Mosen was not even a child of the Li family. Why did he have to call him father before him? He hadn't called him father yet. Thank you, son. This is the best birthday present I've ever received. Chapter 7:12. After dinner, the family gathered together. Su Qianxi led the children to sing the birthday song to Li Xicheng, and the smile on Li Xicheng's face became bigger and bigger. Just before the birthday song was finished, she heard the doorbell ring. Su Qianxi went to the door, opened the door, and saw Ming, who looked a little travel-worn. With surprise in her eyes, Su Qianxi invited him in and shouted, "Honey, Ming is here." Ming? Li Xicheng was also a little surprised. Just after the children's birthday song, Ming appeared in Li Xicheng's vision at the same time. Ming was holding the specialties of the capital, a bottle of wine, and a box of something unknown, but it looked very high-end. At this moment, seeing Li Xicheng, he handed everything to Li Xicheng. Ming saw him, chuckled, and his eyes were slightly red. The two men looked at each other and smiled. Immediately, they went forward and hugged each other. Hard. But it was not the kind of enthusiasm for women. Their hug was full of pride and domineering. Li Xicheng, you are finally back. Ming reached out and patted his back, his face full of emotion, and his eyes were slightly red. Li Xicheng heard that and laughed. He directly punched Ming's lower abdomen and said with a little anger, "You really have the nerve to say that. I have been waiting for you for half a month, and you lie to me every day." Ming laughed at the same time, pushed him away, and gently punched him on the shoulder. "Aren't you back now? I also brought you a birthday gift, the limited edition watch you have always wanted. It's for you." Li Xicheng heard that, chuckled, turned to look at the three little guys behind him, and said, "Call Uncle O." "Hello, Uncle O." The three little guys spoke at the same time, especially Li Jianrui, whose sweet voice was out of place with the two boys. At this moment, she did not look up, looked at the cake in front of her, pouted, and shouted, "Dad, come and blow out the candles. You see, the candles are almost falling into the cake, and we can't eat it later." Li Jianrui wasn't very old, but she was as smart as her brother. She was very eloquent with words. Furthermore, she watched TV shows with Old Master Li and Qin Shuhua every day. She had learned most of the things that she shouldn't have learned. At this moment, what the little guy said made Li Xicheng smile. "You help Dad." "No, I have to make a wish first before I can blow out the candles, and you have to blow it yourself, otherwise, the wish won't come true." Li Xicheng pretended to look surprised and asked, "Really?" Seeing Li Xicheng's expression, the little guy was convinced. He nodded with a serious face and said, "Of course it's true. Dad, come on. If the candle falls, the wish won't come true. You obviously want to eat cake." Li Jianxian unceremoniously undermined him with a look of disdain. Li Jianrui blushed and puffed up her cheeks. She said, "I didn't." "Brother Mosen, am I that kind of person?" Li Mosen shook his head. "No. Humph. The audience's eyes are sharp." Li Jianrui made a face at Li Jianxian, then turned her head and continued to urge, "Hurry up, Dad." The little girl, who was less than 4 years old, called her father with a sweet voice. Ming was full of envy when he heard it. Looking at Li Xicheng, he couldn't help but feel sad like a tide. Chapter 7:13. If his children were still alive, how old would they be now? Were they 2 boys or 2 girls? Or, like Li Xicheng, a boy and a girl? Ming's mood swings had never been obvious, but this time, Li Xicheng clearly sensed his envy. Li Xicheng's eyes darkened, and he gently patted Ming on the shoulder. Wait for me. Then, he coaxed the children and said, coming. Walking over, he pretended to make a wish, and then blew out the candles. Li Xicheng took a long time to pull out the 31 candles. Under the children's eyes, he cut the cake. The children all cheered and shouted in unison, "Happy birthday!" Li Xicheng cut the cake, and Su Qianxi helped him. He distributed the cake to the children and looked up at Ming. Come here, take a piece. Ming chuckled, walked over, and sat down on the sofa. The elders were all behind. Captain Li looked at Ming and said, Xiao Ming, you are not married yet? Do you have a girlfriend? Ming smiled and shook his head slowly. No. You don't plan to find one? Not for the time being. Ming smiled, took the cake from Li Xicheng, and handed it to Captain Li. Grandpa, eat the cake. Captain Li took the cake and asked with a smile, your father won't rush you. Aren't you in a hurry? Well, I told him to focus on his career first. His career has been very successful. You see, your group has been like a rocket in recent years. Isn't that enough? A man still needs a family. Only when he has a family can he have a better career. Grandpa, why are you so interested in his relationship? Li Xicheng glanced at the old man and handed another piece of cake to Ming. If you are free, help me take care of the children. I have something to say to Ming. Captain Li stared at him, a little angry, and said, you little brat, now you think your grandfather is long-winded? Hey! Forget it, I can't care about you. Go. Ming put down the cake, said goodbye to Captain Li, and followed Li Xicheng out the door. However, not long after Li Xicheng left, Li Jianxian suddenly put down the half-eaten cake in his hand. His white cheeks blushed as he ran after him and shouted, Dad, wait a minute. Li Xicheng was dazed, paused, and looked behind him. A short and small figure ran over. Although he was young, his body proportions were excellent. Her black curly hair fluttered in the wind. Looking at Li Xicheng, she blushed even more. Li Xicheng looked down at him, his eyes deeper, with a meaning that Li Jianxian could not understand at all. What did you call me? The little fellow's face turned even redder, and he weakly called out, Daddy. Li Xicheng's eyes became softer. His eyes curved slightly as he looked at Li Jianxian. Yeah. I also want to give you a birthday present. What present? Li Xicheng smiled and took 2 steps closer, his eyes shining with surprise. Although the little fellow did not understand, he knew that his father must be happy at this time. You are too tall. Squat down a little. Li Xicheng heard and squatted down. Li Jianxian went up and imitated Li Jianyue. He held Li Xicheng's head with both hands and kissed him on the cheek. Then, he turned around and ran, shouting, Happy birthday, Dad. Li Xicheng's eyes lit up. Dash. Chapter 7:14. The little guy ran inside, and when he walked to the sofa, his little body stumbled. Li Xicheng was shocked and couldn't help but remind him, be careful. The little guy turned his back to Li Xicheng, blushed, lowered his head, and trotted in. Ming also laughed and teased, it's exactly the same as when you were a child. Is this the first time he called you Dad? Yes. Li Xicheng's lips curled, and his cold eyes became softer. The first time, it feels good. This little guy's personality is really cute. Could it be that he didn't call him on purpose so that he could give him a surprise on his birthday? Li Xicheng's dark eyes became softer. Turning his head, he found that Ming's eyes were even more envious. There was a smile on his lips, but there was indescribable loneliness in his eyes. Perhaps others could not see Ming's emotions, but Li Xiqing admitted that he had known him for more than 20 years and had long known him like the back of his hand. With such emotions, Li Xiqing couldn't help but frown, stepped forward, and said, "Let's go." The small lake not far from the door of the old house had been there for many years. When they were young, Ming and Li Xiqing liked to sit on the grass by the side and chat. During the day, they sat fishing and basked in the sun. At night, they lay on their backs and looked at the sky full of stars. This kind of life lasted until they graduated from college. After graduation, Ming went to Europe to study, and Li Xiqing started his own company. The days they spent together here became less and less. Once again lying in this place, the two of them felt infinite emotions in their hearts. Li Xiqing. Yes. Li Xiqing put his hands on his head, looked at the sky and responded. Today's Kingstown was already a first-tier city. The sky full of stars in the past no longer existed. The dark night sky now only had a little light hanging, looking bleak and lonely. For a long time, the two of them did not speak again. There was the sound of insects around, and the breeze was cool and comfortable. Li Xiqing looked at the night sky and slowly said, "This time in the capital, who did you meet?" Ming was dazed and turned to look at Li Xiqing. After a long while, he chuckled. "Are you a roundworm?" Li Xiqing curled his lips and asked, "You Lily?" Ming's eyes darkened at the mention of the name. He turned to look at the sky again. In the darkness, there seemed to be a smiling face, with a coquettish smile, looking at him provocatively. "It's her. She must be having a hard time." Ming laughed. "How did you know?" "She can't live well without you. TSK, she's even more ruthless than me. At least I didn't want her to live a bad life." Ming shook his head and removed his hand from under his head. His voice was distant and lonely. "Do you still remember the reason why we last met?" The woman had a miscarriage. "Yes, for the past 4 years, I've always thought that it was my fault, that I crushed my own child to death." Ming's voice was a little choked. In front of his only good brother, Ming had no intention of hiding anything. He turned his head and said, "But, in fact, she took the medicine. She planned to have an abortion. It's twins." 2 children, Li Xiqing felt a sudden knock on his heart. Deep in his heart, he could not hold back his anger. Twins. They were actually 2 children. Chapter 7:15. 2 children. How much luck did one have to be in order for such luck to descend upon them? However, Yu Lily had killed such luck with her own hands. How cruel. She hates me. She blames me for not giving her freedom. If I had not been so domineering to her, would things have been different? Ming's voice did not sound very emotional. A pair of dark brown pupils, looking at the sky in the distance, with endless loneliness and frustration. Li Xiqing, I really envy you. Although he had been away from home for 4 years, everything was developing in a good direction. He had twins who loved him, a wife who loved him, parents who loved him, and a loving grandfather who loved him. How lucky. Ming curled his lips and looked at the sky in the distance. In front of him, there seemed to be a sarcastic smile. "No, that woman is an ungrateful wolf. The better you are to her, the more she wants to run away," Li Xiqing said lightly. "She is not worthy of your attention. You are not young anymore. Doesn't your father urge you?" Li Xiqing said indifferently. Ming chuckled and gave him a punch. "Your grandfather just asked me. Why are you learning from your grandfather? If I meet the right person, I will get married. Maybe I can fall in love with her. Like you?" Li Xiqing smiled and did not answer. How could it be the same? When he married Su Qianxi, there was no one in his heart. For him, it was the same no matter who he married. But Ming was different. He had been with that woman for 7 years. How could it be the same? But this was undoubtedly the best result. Did he want Ming to be single? If that woman was worth it, Li Xiqing had nothing to say. But you Lily, shoo, the sound of fireworks. Li Xiqing and O Ming looked at the same time. The brilliant fireworks suddenly bloomed in the dark night sky, making the most beautiful smile. It was a riot of colors, forming a huge word. Li. O Ming raised his eyebrows and read it out. Then, another firework rose. Shoo, bang, see. Then, the third, the fourth, the fifth. One by one, they bloomed. Cheng. Live. Day. Soon. Happy. Forever. Forever. Love. You. Li Xiqing, happy birthday. Love you forever. Forever, O Ming muttered these two words in his heart and was slightly stunned. Seeing the fireworks, Li Xiqing already knew who it was. The corners of his lips curled up unconsciously. Following that, the sky was filled with fireworks once again. Each and every one of them was colorful and beautiful. His phone vibrated, and he picked it up. It was Su Qianxi. He picked it up, but it was not Su Qianxi's voice, but his baby daughter's. Li Jianyue's voice was sweet as she called out, "Daddy, where are you? Do you see the fireworks? So beautiful." "Yes, where's your mother?" Li Jianyue smiled mysteriously. "Mommy said that I can't tell Daddy. If Daddy is done with his work now, he can go to the swimming pool next to our house alone." With that, the little fellow hung up the phone. Li Xiqing sat up, reluctantly looking away from the fireworks in the distance, and looked sideways at O Ming. O Ming stood up, patted himself, and said, "Your wife is waiting for you, right? Go ahead, I'll go back to the company first. See you tomorrow." O Ming. You deserve better. Chapter 7:16. She deserved better, O Ming chuckled and gently hammered him on the shoulder. Without saying anything, he smiled and waved his hand. Then he went into the old house, picked up his things, and left. After the black Lamborghini drove away, Li Xiqing turned and walked toward his swimming pool. He hadn't gone swimming for a long time, and he remembered that Su Qianxi didn't know how to swim. Why would he go there? Li Xiqing had already imagined a lot of pictures. For example, sex. This should be called a birthday gift, right? Curling his lips, Li Xiqing walked faster and faster. However, when he walked to the edge of the swimming pool, it was dark. It seemed that there was nothing. Standing there for a moment, Li Xiqing did not intend to move, but the smile on his lips was getting deeper and deeper. Suddenly, the lights in the surroundings lit up. Li Xiqing was dazzled by the sudden light, and his eyes curved. It was expected, but the effect of the surprise did not decrease. The bright yellow light shone under the swimming pool, turning the whole pool golden. There was a beautiful golden LED light shining at the bottom. Li Xiqing looked down and clearly saw his name. Li Xiqing, I love you. Right in the middle of the swimming pool, there was a bubble. Just above the bubble, there was a box. It was a big red square box, with ribbons on it, looking mysterious and beautiful. There was a long thin line tied to the ribbon. Li Xiqing looked along the thin line and found that the other end of the line was at his feet. Picking up the long line, Li Xiqing slowly pulled it, and the bubble was guided to this side by him. Taking the box up, Li Xiqing pulled the ribbon open, and there was a big piece of clay lying inside. On the clay, there were 3 small handprints and a slightly larger handprint. In front of the handprint were written Sun, Yu, Qian, and the word CI was written on the big handprint. Under the clay, there was a small white whiteboard, with crooked colorful writing, Dad, happy birthday, love Ursu. Li Xiqing saw this thing, and his eyes became softer. The softest part of his heart felt like it was hit by a stove, and he suddenly felt warm. His children, his wife. So nice. Hearing the sound of high heels behind him, Li Xiqing squinted, stood up, and turned around. Su Qianxi was wearing a bright red dress that was different from usual. It was a sleeveless backless dress, outlining her even and graceful figure. At the moment, she was smiling at him. Li Xiqing looked at her and also smiled happily. Su Qianxi stepped forward and put her arms around his neck. Smiling charmingly, she looked up at him with her big eyes and whispered, "Mr. Li, Mrs. Li." Li Xiqing bowed his head, his forehead against hers, and said softly, "You did all this?" Su Qianxi heard that and chuckled. Mimicking him, she asked, "What do you think?" Li Xiqing's big hand held her eyes, his smile widening. Gazing down at her, his voice low and magnetic, he slowly said, "I love you too." After saying that, he lowered his head and kissed her lips. Gently and tenderly, his hands tightened, holding her even more firmly. A light kiss and a light taste. Chapter 717. Hearing his words, Su Qianxi blushed. In front of her, Li Xiqing's eyes were dark, like a galaxy full of stars, breathtakingly beautiful. One look was enough to make her forget to leave. Gazing at him, Su Qianxi stood on her tiptoes and kissed his lips, imitating how he usually kissed her, gently and gently. He did not move, and Su Qianxi felt a little discouraged, but then she noticed his teasing eyes. Annoyed, she put her toes down, but her waist was suddenly tightened. His eyes were full of smiles, and his voice was low and soft. "Go on." Su Qianxi was reluctant, pouted and looked away. "Today is my birthday, Mrs. Li." With a smile in his eyes, Li Xiqing lowered his head and gently kissed her cheek. "Go on." Su Qianxi blushed and whispered, "Let's go back to the room." Li Xiqing's smile on her cheek widened. He carried her in his arms and walked in the direction of the house. "Put me down first. It's not good to be seen by the children." "There is nothing wrong with it. Is it not normal for Dad to carry Mom?" Li Xiqing whispered in her ear, "The children all know that their dad wants to carry their mom, and their thoughts are still very pure." Did he mean that Su Qianxi's thoughts were not pure? Su Qianxi blushed even more, gave him a stare, and was about to get down. However, Li Xiqing held her more firmly and whispered, "Don't move." "I can't help it." Su Qianxi was speechless. Blushing, she lowered her head and whispered, "Pervert." Li Xiqing's voice was low and gentle, with an indescribable magnetism. Holding her, he walked faster and whispered in her ear, "I have always been like this. You like it too, don't you?" At this time, it was only 9 p.m. The children and Grandpa had already been sent to bed, leaving only Qin Shuhua and Li Xiao in the living room. The old couple was watching TV. Seeing Li Xiqing coming in with Su Qianxi in his arms, Qin Shuhua immediately looked at Li Xiao and smiled. Su Qianxi's face was even redder. Covering her face, she buried her head in his chest and patted him gently, urging, "Hurry up." Li Xiqing's lips curled up as he walked toward the room. She reached out and opened the door. After he walked in, she closed the door. But before she could lock the door, he carried her into the house. As soon as he entered the room, he saw the bed covered in red roses. Li Xiqing chuckled and gently put her down. He whispered, "I didn't expect you to be so romantic." Su Qianxi blushed and looked at him. She hugged his neck and whispered, "In the Maldives, when we first went there, did you put those roses?" That was 5 years ago, when Grandpa forced her to go to the Maldives with Li Xiqing for a vacation. When they just moved in, she saw a bed full of roses. Densely packed, it was very beautiful and fresh. Such flowers were already very expensive. The hotel should not have spent a lot of money on that kind of thing. Su Qianxi only realized this in the past few days. Chapter 718. The fiery big palm moved gently from her waist to her back, gently stroking her smooth and delicate back. It was as soft as a peeled egg, smooth and delicate. Li Xiqing couldn't help but touch it a few more times, feeling even more unable to control himself. After a long time, Li Xiqing let go of her, breathing a little fast, and said, "It's me." At that time, Qingyu was reading a comic in the company during her break, and the hero was quarreling with the heroine. After the heroine got off work, she returned home and found the bed full of beautiful rose petals, which was very surprising. The hero came out from under the bed and lifted the quilt. The rose petals were scattered all over the sky, which was very beautiful. Li Xiqing had already prepared for her. At that time, seeing her stunned expression, he was also in a good mood. Hearing Li Xiqing's affirmative answer, Su Qianxi's eyes were even more gentle, and she looked up to kiss him. The smile on Li Xiqing's lips widened, and he pushed her to the center of the bed. Dense kisses accompanied by the color of lipstick moved to Su Qianxi's chin, neck, collarbone. Su Qianxi hugged him tighter, and her body couldn't help trembling under the movement of his big hands. No matter how many times she had been with him, her body was always as sensitive as when she first met him. The feeling of numbness spread from the tailbone to the whole body, and Su Qianxi's whole body softened. Li Xiqing gently pulled her shoulder strap and kissed her affectionately and enchantingly, carefully as if he was protecting a precious work of art. "Dad, Dad." Suddenly a child's voice came from outside. Li Xiqing's body stiffened, and before he had time to react, the door of the room had been opened. Su Qianxi was also shocked and quickly pushed him. Her already pink face suddenly became even more flushed. She covered her chest and pulled up her clothes. Li Jianyu ran in, crying, "Dad, my brother won't let me play with the building blocks." Sob. Li Xiqing was a little embarrassed and sat up. Su Qianxi turned around, blushing, and quickly put on her clothes. As for Li Xiqing, he had just kissed Su Qianxi and had not had time to wipe off the lipstick on his mouth. Li Jianyu saw the lipstick mark on his lips, chin, and cheeks. She widened her eyes, looked at Li Xiqing, and said in surprise, "Dad, are you wearing lipstick?" Li Xiqing felt the blue veins in his temples throbbing. Looking at the mirror on the dresser, he took 2 tissues and wiped the lipstick on his face before turning to look at his baby daughter. At this moment, Li Jianyue's big eyes were wet, and she looked a little wronged. Her 2 eyebrows were arched and her little face had turned pink. She was wearing a cute princess nightgown and was hugging the Barbie doll that Rong Xian had bought for her previously. She looked at him with an aggrieved expression. "Daddy," Li Xiqing felt a little helpless. He went forward to pick up his daughter and asked softly, "What happened to Ursu? Big brother doesn't let me play with building blocks." "Boo-hoo. Big brother is too selfish. I don't like big brother anymore." Li Jianyue hugged Li Xiqing's neck and cried. She looked so aggrieved that Li Xiqing's heart ached. Li Xiqing wiped her tears and unconsciously frowned. He coaxed, "Ursu, be good. Daddy will teach big brother a lesson for you." "Where is big brother? Take me there." You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.